Heads Up. 106.3 FM is a new way to hear 102.5 The Game from downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and on I-24 to Murfreesboro.
Make sure you have that preset on your radio dial.
We're making it even easier to listen to Nashville's best sports talk.
This is going to be awesome. It's like, yes.
Tune in to 106.3.
That's what makes this team better.
And hear the difference.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Signs First is the official sign company for 102.5 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
We're saluting 4 more of our teammates at Cromwell Media this month. Cindy Johns in sales has been here 20 years. Lakin King, who handles all our commercial logs, is enjoying 13 years. Operations Manager Ace Swartz is toasting 12 years with us. And Chase McCabe, Program Director for our Sportstalk stations, chalks up 10 years. That's 55 years of combined experience with our company. There's a reason for that tenure. We value our employees and do our very best to create a great work experience. Check us out at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Get in on the conversation at 615-737-1025. The Game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checker flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The Game should be live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Caroline Fenton is here today. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how we doing?
Outstanding, though I am a little disappointed. Ian Safar this weekend, they celebrated Little May's 3rd birthday.
Happy 3rd birthday to May.
And I did not get invited.
Would you have gone?
When was it, Ian?
It was Saturday.
What time?
11 to 1.
I could have made it.
Okay. Well, I'll keep that. I'll keep that in mind next time. It's one of those things where, do you really want to obligate people to go to a kid's birthday party? You know,
There's a lot of truth in that. But May would have probably gotten a present out of it. So.
We were no gifts. No gifts. We specifically asked for no gifts this time.
What's up with that?
Oh, dude, she has plenty of stuff.
I'm just saying.
And it's probably Ian's job to clean up all the stuff. So he's probably like, no more stuff. We're good with the stuff.
I'm just saying, no presents. Great. Fun parents over there.
Well,
with the no
I
presents.
mean, there are people who broke the rules, of course, or always are, but we specifically asked for no presents. So May got some stuff. Don't worry.
You know what's funny is I remember when May was born, feels like just yesterday. And I remember because we were doing the Jared and the GM program at some sports bar out in Cool Springs. I forget which one. And it was right around, now May have been born now, I think, for a couple days at this point. But it was right around the NHL draft, the 2019 NHL draft. In fact, the next day, I want to say May was born, and 2 days later, PK Subban got traded by the Predators.
I think that is correct.
A week later, they signed Mac Duchene.
I remember it happening while I was in the hospital and pulling up the stream.
So there you go. And I remember how we talked about it. We talked and we talked and we talked and we talked. And it was this sense of, are they going to finally get Duchesne? Are they going to finally trade P.K. Subban? Which takes me to the reporting over the weekend. Because I don't know how many of you all caught insider trading on TSN this weekend. I did. Did you?
I happened to miss it this weekend.
Oh, you weren't watching your Canadian Sports Center?
You know, I usually do try to tune in to everything that Toronto has to offer, but this weekend it slipped my mind.
Ian, did you watch your Canadian TV this weekend?
I missed it.
Well, he had a birthday party that we weren't invited to, so I guess that makes sense.
That's probably doing us a favor so we could watch Canadian TV and not be bothered with the birthday party.
So I'm watching insider trading on TSN, and I did report the goodies to everybody on Twitter, but we had two separate Predators reports. In fact, I was stunned by how much more people cared about one Predators report than they cared about the other report. But again, this is Canada, and they care about these things a lot. And so two separate Predators reports. The first is about Barry Trotz, and this comes from Pierre Lebrun. This is what Pierre said on TSN.
What we're told is that Barry Trotz, his intention is to make his decision on his NHL future around July 1st, and he's indicated that to a few teams. Now, we know, of course, we reported before that he's interviewed with the Winnipeg Jets, he's interviewed with the Detroit Red Wings, among other clubs, for the head coaching jobs. But we're also told that he has chatted with his old NHL club, the Nashville Predators, about a potential management role with the organization, which has always kind of been rumored about Barry Trotz, but it's interesting that that's yet another option for Barry Trotz potentially.
Okay, so Pierre says that, hey, perhaps Barry could work in the front office. He's talked to the Predators about it, and I can't tell you the amount of people that heard that, saw that, and were like, bring Barry back. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, so wait a minute. So Barry Trotz is going to turn down $6 million a year, $5 million a year, however much money it is coaching. And he's got all these jobs that want him. And he's going to turn that down to come work for the Predators underneath the guy who fired him and not taking over for the guy who is not as good as him. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I heard the Pierre report, and I was like, okay, you know, what it tells me is that Barry's going to take some time to decide whether or not he wants to coach this season. And if he decides he doesn't want to coach this season, then Barry will probably sit out, or he might work here. But he's not going to be the general manager, which is a position that I would prefer him to than the guy who's currently doing it. And he's not going to be the head coach, which is a position I would prefer him to do instead of the guy who's doing it. So that didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. Now, you all on Twitter made, oh, my God, Barry, come back. You know, I mean, they were just so happy. Here's the other report. And I think this report's much more interesting. This is Chris Johnston, who's also one of those insiders. And he's talking about Philip Forsberg.
A player the Nashville Predators would like to bring back to their lineup is Philip Forsberg, but at this point in time, it's not clear if they're going to be able to do that. There hasn't been much progress towards an extension since talks were held in March. The sides have had an ongoing dialogue, but they are dug in at this point in time. And so as we get closer to July 13th, a career-long Predator who loves his time in Nashville may face the choice that he has to go to the open market.
Okay, so that is not anything we haven't heard before, but it is at least interesting. And he's clearly getting that from the agent. So it's clearly from Forsberg's camp that, you know, they haven't made a lot of progress in these talks. And, you know, I think it's kind of getting... It's June 20th. Like, I'm not going to say that they need to be nearing the finish line, but that right there, which, like I said, probably came from Forsberg's agent, doesn't drip with the optimism that John Hines had last week when he told the Midday Show that he was, in fact, optimistic. And at the same time, he said that he was pretty confident they'd get a deal done with Philip Forsberg, which leads me to ask this question. The Barry Trotz thing, I don't care about. If Barry's not coming back to run the team or Barry's not coming back to be the coach, I don't care about bringing Barry Trotz back. I mean, it doesn't do me any good to have Barry Trotz shaking hands at the golf tournament. It doesn't do me any good to have Barry Trotz washing the jock straps. I mean, I need Barry Trotz to either be the coach or to run the team, and it doesn't sound like they're going to let Barry do either. So everyone's making this whole like, oh, my God, could Barry come back here? That, to me, is not that big of a deal. In fact, I think that's probably leverage. I think that is, hey, Detroit, Winnipeg, all you teams that really want me to be your coach, how about this? You go out and you hire somebody else today. Well, I have other options, so just know that. So maybe leave it open until I decide what to do. or maybe up the ante a little bit. I don't know. But the Forsberg thing, I'm not concerned by it because I'm still at 100% that he's coming back. But at some point, don't they have to make some progress? At some point, like, we went into last season thinking, hey, are they going to get to training camp with a deal? And if they don't have a deal at training camp, are they going to trade him before the start of the regular season? And then they decided no. And they told us they weren't making any progress then. Then every week that David Poyle went on the midday show during the season, they asked him about Philip Forsberg. And every week he was like, I don't really have any progress. And then it got close to the trade deadline, and then a report came out that they were trying to trade Forsberg, which we now know is probably not true at all. But a report came out that they were trying to trade Forsberg, and he was like, I'm trying to sign Forsberg. I'm not trying to trade Forsberg. And then they got to the trade deadline, and they didn't work out a deal, and they kept him, and they told us they were still trying to sign him. And now the offseason they haven't played hockey in, a month and a half?
About.
I mean, they haven't played a month and a half since A.J. Brown was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, and they still don't have they're not making any progress? And which leads me to this. Either each side is just waiting down till the final nub, and then they're both going to put the cards on the table, or someone's getting screwed in this deal. And I don't know who it is, and I don't know which side's the side to blink first. I don't know. I don't know. Does Forsberg's agent, J.P. Barry, who is a veteran agent that has a lot of good players, this is not Jeffrey Simmons' secret team. This is a real agent who's got real clients who knows how to work the NHL. Does he have another deal lined up? Does he have somewhere that Forsberg rather go? I don't know. Would he actually be willing to go somewhere else? I mean, normally people that are from Sweden don't go to CMA Festival and stick around for soccer games after the season's over. Usually they go back home after the hockey season. So that's one thing. But the other thing that I just cannot see is I can't imagine David Poyle letting him walk. So I don't understand when I hear the incremental progress. I'm thinking to myself, if you're the Predators and you were last week pretty confident and optimistic, according to the head coach, that you're going to sign this guy, you need to start making some inroads. You need to start making some concessions, because I'm just saying, I don't think David Poyle, in his heart of hearts, when he puts his head on the pillow at night and closes his eyes, I don't think he can foresee Philip Forsberg not on the Predators next year. I know he talks big about Plan B and Plan C, but I think that's bullcrap. I think he has to have him on this team. And so I don't know if they're playing chicken, but I watched a franchise icon in Freddie Freeman and the Atlanta Braves. He was their most popular player. They won the World Series, and I watched them play chicken with each other, and I watched how it ended. And if I'm David and I'm sitting there thinking about, Phil wants this amount of money, and I just don't think that he's worth that kind of money, or he wants this kind of trade protection, and I just don't know if he's worth that kind of trade protection. It's like, dude, you better make up your mind. I know you don't want to pay it. I know you don't want to give it, but are you actually going to let this dude walk? Because at some point, this incremental progress, at some point, you got to start making some real progress. Now, I'm not concerned, because the reporting is the same reporting that we've heard the whole time, which is, I hear they're far apart, and I hear they're trying to work on a deal, and I hear they're, but guys, starting to get to the point in time where one side could get really upset about this. Again, I think he wants to be here. I don't think there's anywhere else he'd rather be. And I think they're holding out for the best deal from the Predators. And I think the Predators know that. And I think the Predators know they're going to have to sign him. I know the Predators want to sign him. But I think they're thinking, if we wait a little bit longer, we can shave down, a little bit of the money. Maybe not give him as much no trade protection. I'm like, guys, you're playing a very dangerous game, both of you. So when I hear the TSN report, I'm like, that's real. That's not that big of a deal to me. But again, if you're one of these people, and I ran a poll this morning on Twitter that I think is still up, in which I asked, I asked, do you think Do you expect Forsberg to remain with the Predators? 54% say yes. So there's 46% of the people out there that think there's a chance, that don't expect him to remain with the team. I'd be careful now. I mean, I'd be careful about this game of chicken and this, no progress, and I'm not sure where. Like, guys, every day that he remains unsigned is one more day that somebody's going to get mad in this deal. And is it really worth it? Like, is it worth it to David Poile? So that's what I want to start on today. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Again, incremental progress. And I think that's coming from the agent. And I think that's the agent kind of telling the league and telling everybody else, hey, there's a chance he might walk now. There's a chance he might be free. Get your money ready. So I have a second thought. And this is more of a question that I'm going to facilitate on the other side about Forsberg. What will the reaction around here be? I want everybody to think about this. What will the reaction around here be if on July 14th or 13th or whatever day it is, he's a Colorado Avalanche, he's a Pittsburgh Penguin, he's not a Predator? What will the reaction be? We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. We're rocking and rolling. Stillman and Company. We're delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car.
While hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Ample Collision Centers and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
On ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
The city famous for its music is about to be overwhelmed by the Symphony of Speed. June 24th through 26th, Nashville Super Speedway will host an exciting weekend of NASCAR racing and entertainment featuring the Ally 400 Cup Series race, the Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Rackley Roofing 200. Tickets are going fast, so visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com or call 866-RACE-TIX and brace yourself for some full-throttle fun.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Ford South. I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is we've been getting more and more new vehicles in stock every day. The bad news is they go out as quick as they come in, so be sure to reach out and let us know what you're looking for. And as soon as it comes in, we can call you. We can even order a new vehicle to your exact wants and needs. Don't worry, we have more good news. We have a great way for you to get some extra cash for all your summer adventures. We're buying any and all used cars. We're offering top dollar for your vehicle. Reach out. We can start with an online video appraisal. Even more good news. With Newton Fast Pass, you can buy a car without ever leaving the pool. Really? You can buy your car from anywhere. Wherever you are, you can buy online. And on top of that, we'll deliver the car to you. Build your car or buy your car online in Newton today. Visit NewtonFordSouth.com to learn more.
Upgrade her diamond ring this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Yes! This killer offer has been extended through July 2nd. Our most aggressive offer of the year continues, but won't be extended again. It's not just on engagement rings. It's earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So that $5,000 eternity band comes out to just $85 a month. One-of-a-kind designer jewelry is also included in this amazing offer. Now through July 2nd at Genesis Diamonds. Open this Sunday. Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit.
Erectile dysfunction ruins sex, but it's more than that. It harms otherwise good relationships. It destroys marriages. It can cause depression and anxiety, and it can be extremely hard on a man's self-esteem. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're suffering with ED, if it's affecting you, I want you to know that if you're like most men, we can treat it and get you back to the man you used to be. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we're ED experts. Our protocols have success rates as high as 90%. We've successfully treated thousands of men in the Music City, and we have a variety of treatment options and treatment combinations that could have you performing like you haven't in years. You could even last up to an hour and experience great sex again that is satisfying for both you and your partner. In treating your health, expertise matters, so make an appointment today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra, results vary.
It's on, it's happening.
Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way, I'm watching a game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Just to clarify that, if you aren't able to sign him, does that make you think a deeper rebuild is necessary?
No, I like where we're going and the changes that we've made. We've gone from one of the oldest teams in the league to one of the youngest teams in the league. I think we've made some hard decisions on some of the more veteran players, the guys specifically that were with us in our Cup run in the President's Trophy, Ellis and Arvidsson, for example, plus others. And just as I just said there, there's 9 players remaining that were on our roster when John first took over. So I think and feel that we're going in the right direction in terms of putting these younger players on our team, like Carrier and Fabro are getting more ice time. And we made a change from Pecorini to Saros. We've now signed Askarov, who is a goalie of the future. We've worked in Trenton on a more regular basis, and he was part of the herd line. Tanner Chenot gets 24 goals this past years in the running for the Rookie of the Year. We need some other guys to step up. A couple of guys had tough years, like Cunnin and Tolden probably didn't live up to our or their expectations. And to be successful, you need everybody. So we have holes in our lineup for sure that we need to get better and improve, but I think we're on the right track to getting there.
There you go. That was David Boyle, and he says all those things, and I don't think really anybody other than the 13% of Adam Vinkin's poll, other than the 13% of fans, I don't think people are buying it. But I do want to ask this question. Again, the TSN report, Chris Johnston over the weekend, the Predators are making incremental progress with Philip Forsberg. Here's my question. On July 13th, you wake up, Philip Forsberg has signed a 7-year deal with the Colorado Avalanche, who apparently have a lot of cap space. I don't know why, but I Googled most NHL cap space for next season, and they were, for some reason, towards the bottom. So he's on Colorado. He's on Pittsburgh, who apparently has a bunch of cap space. Now, they have to re-sign Evgeny Malkin as well. But he's on LA. Chicago. He's on L.A., he's on one of these teams. Dallas. Philip Forsberg is not a Nashville Predator on July 14th. How will the fans react to that?
I think the fans are going to be absolutely irate. I think that with the Predators fan base, at least the vibe that I get, is that David Boyle's leash is very, very short, at least in terms of their loyalty to the team. They just want to see something, some sort of change, some sort of steps toward improvement, some sort of plan. And I don't think that a lot of Predators fans see a clear-cut future, a clear-cut plan if Philip Forsberg is not part of it.
Well, that's because there is none.
Okay, so I guess they're fair in thinking that then. But I mean, how many texts have we seen, and how many times have we heard people call in saying, I'm canceling my tickets, I'll be so uninterested if Philip Forsberg is not a Nashville Predator? Because if Philip Forsberg stays, no, that doesn't make the Predators better, makes them the same. But if Philip Forsberg walks, you're not a better team.
Okay. Do you think any of that matters? Do you think how the fans react if they don't sign Forsberg, do you think that matters? Do you think that they, and I don't even really know who they is they Herb Fritsch? Is they Bill Haslam? Is they Sean Henry? Is they, I don't even know who they is anymore. But does it matter to them that it's like there are unpopular moves that make fans upset. That happens all the time. Yeah. A.J. Brown's trade was an unpopular move that they knew were going to make fans upset, but at least there was a little bit of logic behind it. You knew that after a day, people would be over it.
Yeah.
I don't think people are over this one after a day.
No.
I don't think this is the kind of move that if Philip Forsberg goes somewhere else, that's why if I'm the Predators, and you know me, I think the fans care about Forsberg's contract a lot more than I care about Forsberg's contract.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to compete with him, and I don't think they're going to compete without him. So doesn't make that big of a difference to me. But if it did matter, like if this one I think is tangible with the fans, that if he doesn't come back, I think there's going to be people that are really turn their backs on this team.
I would agree. And you ask, does that matter? And I say yes.
Even though we don't know who they is.
They, just pie in the sky, they. The Predator pie in the sky, they. David Poile has said so many times over the past year or so, and especially the past couple of months, how much they value making the playoffs. And that's to keep the fans bought in. So if you trade away arguably your best, most popular player on the team, that doesn't make the fans very happy.
Not trade. Give.
Lose.
Give.
Lose.
You give him away.
Lose him.
Nothing.
If you lose your best, most popular player,
the second
that's
time,
not going to be a very popular move with the fans.
The second time over a 10-year period that this happened. I mean, not that Ryan Suter was the most popular player on the team, and I wouldn't say Forsberg's the most popular player, but the second time
you can make an argument
that
for it.
You got duped into this idea that you could keep your guy and that he would hit the market and that you would keep your guy, and the second time in 10 years you don't get anything in return for him. I mean, that's a big miss. I think that here's the real risk that David Poile runs. Again, the Adam Vingan poll was basically, there were two separate polls regarding Poile in which the numbers aligned pretty evenly around 87 to 13% of optimism about Poile turning this around or turning the Predators into a competitor. I still think there's a much larger number of people that give David Poile the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't think David Poile deserves the benefit of the doubt anymore. There's a lot of people around here that still give it to him. Like, oh, well, David's our guy. David's been here for forever. Whatever. Especially if Colorado smokes the crap out of Tampa Bay, which they did the other night, then there's going to be even more optimism or reason for apology to, hey, look what they did to Tampa Bay. That's a two-time defending Cup champions. And there may be some truth in that. But I think if David loses Philip Forsberg for nothing, and that this whole time, every time he went on the midday show, and Ian's going to kill me because I'm going to make him literally get every time David went on the midday show and sat there and talked about trying to bring Forsberg back. If they can't keep Philip Forsberg and he ends up going somewhere else, I think David will lose the benefit of the doubt that I still think he has with some people. And I think that then we can literally talk about, then I think we can use the term clueless. That is, when it comes to, we've got a plan. Okay. And I do think that there's probably some plan, but there's anxiety from me.
But how do you not have
not knowing what their plan is?
But how would they not have a plan on June 20th when he's not signed and he needs to be in less than a month?
Well,
how do you not have a plan?
If your plan is that eventually they'll lower the asking price because we have the 8th year and they don't, then
that's not a plan.
That's the plan.
That's the hope. That's not a plan.
That's the plan.
Well, it's a bad one.
I mean, I actually think it's a good one, honestly. If I'm sitting here telling you strategically.
If that's your only plan is to hope the price goes down, what if the price doesn't go down? What's your plan?
What if someone's willing to give him $10.5 million a year?
Yes.
So then all of a sudden you're looking at a $70 million contract, and now you've got to give him. Then, see, you know what I said, and I said this around the trade deadline. Whatever it is that his camp was demanding at the trade deadline, which obviously they weren't willing to give, and they're still not willing to give because they haven't given it, whatever they were willing to give around the trade deadline, ultimately they're going to be willing to give. Because why else would you take him into free agency if you didn't know that you would be able to get him back? But again, that's logical. And a lot of the things we've seen, like trading a second-round pick for Jeremy Lauzon, is not logical. I mean, I go back to the term clueless. That Lauzon move and then the subsequent having to sign him to a contract extension to justify the second-round pick that you traded for him, that's a clueless move. Mm-hmm. That's a move that people look at you and they're like, do you know what's going on over here? Are you watching the same thing we're watching? And that's why if Forsberg doesn't come back, but they immediately work a trade for him, let's say they trade his rights to somebody for a second-round pick, then they turn that second-round pick and use it in a package to get a better player from one of these cash-strapped teams like, I don't know, Toronto. Mm-hmm. And they work a deal to get a better player in return. That's one thing. That is, okay, that is playing chess. But I don't see it because they haven't been doing any of those moves. So now I'm going to bank on that? I do think, I think the fact oil why I have 100% confidence that they're going to bring him back. Because I don't think the criticism, I don't think this organization can withstand. And again, it's hard to say because we don't know who they is. I don't think they can withstand the angst that is going to come of not bringing him back. I know this sounds crazy. At least when the Titans, because I was thinking about this today. This reminds me a lot of the Titans a couple years ago in the offseason with Tannehill and Henry, when they were both free agents, and the Titans kind of talked about them like they were on the team during the offseason, even though they technically weren't on the team anymore. And then it was weird what they said about Tannehill, but they said that, we expect Derek to come back, and they ultimately ended up tagging Derek, and they signed Tannehill, and it was kind of a foregone conclusion. At least the Titans had another option, and that option was Tom freaking Brady. This team doesn't have another option unless they pull a rabbit out of their rear end that nobody's expecting. And considering they haven't done that in 6 years, I don't foresee that to change after 6 years worth of data. So the fact that I don't think that they can handle just the barrage of anger that's going to come their way if they don't re-sign him, I think they're going to have to re-sign him. So to answer the question that I asked to start the show, do I think David Poile could let Philip Forsberg walk? The answer is no. I don't think he can let him walk. And if he does walk, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Because again, one, I don't know who they is. I don't know who would get so mad about this. But I mean, the fans? Oh my God, would the fans be furious if that happened. And like I said, it matters more to the fans than it does to me. Because I still don't think you're competing for a cup, even if you have Phil Forsberg on your team. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones. Plus, Elliot Friedman has what he's hearing on the Forsberg thing and thinks that these two sides need something. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, and I promise we will get to those here on the program. ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game is Nashville's home for NASCAR. Tune in Friday through Sunday for the following races at the Nashville Super Speedway. Friday, it's the Rackley Roofing 200 at 6:30. Saturday, it's the Tennessee Lottery 250 at 2 o'clock. And Sunday, it's the Ally 400 at 3 o'clock. Also, join Chase McCabe every Sunday morning at 8 for Chasing Checkers as he talks to the drivers and gets you set for the weekend. NASCAR on ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game is presented by Backyard Blues Pools, Tootsie's Infield Club, Nashville Super Speedway, and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
This is Mikhail Kraland, and this is Nashville.
And the rebound shoveled in by Mikhail Kraland, and the Predators have tied it up on the power play.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 102.5, The Game.
Hey, Willie Donick here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month, and inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it that you can access with Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto specializes in zero-cost cash-out home refis. You can get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. Pay off those 23% rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut $800 or more from their monthly budget. If your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto now and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. Do it now. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Attention all foremen with 3 years experience. Harness LLC is your local excavation and site utilities company. We're growing and we need 5 foremen to grow with us. This is Ray Jeter with Harness LLC. Invest in a company who's going to invest in you. Go to selectharness.com to apply today. The 5 foremen we hire will receive 100% paid health coverage, vacation, and up to $6,000 sign-on bonus. Go to selectharness.com and apply today. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
The coolest beer fest in town returns to Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, June 25th. Get out of the heat and enjoy unlimited craft beer tastings from over 80 breweries at the Preds Beer Fest. Each general admission ticket includes a souvenir tasting glass and a ticket to a Preds home game in October. General admission ticket starts at just $69. All proceeds benefit the Nashville Predators Foundation, which supports Middle Tennessee nonprofits. Visit NashvillePredators.com/beer to secure your tickets today.
We're in the most active season of the year right now, but if you've got joint pain, you may be on the sidelines. Hips, knees, back pain, shoulder pain. It sucks the fun out of living, but I've got the solution. QC Kinetics, helping people here in our listening area get the fun back. It's regenerative medicine. It's the hottest thing going. It's basically taking growth factors with the healing properties from your own body, highly concentrated, then putting them into your aching joints. This is exciting. It's in the office. It's non-surgical. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. So stop putting it off. Call QC Kinetics and learn more about regenerative medicine and get a free in-office consultation now. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics. Repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints and get the long-lasting relief from pain.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming. Get the extra point, no problem. And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is Pekka Rinne. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
A player the Nashville Predators would like to bring back to their lineup is Philip Forsberg, but at this point in time, it's not clear if they're going to be able to do that. There hasn't been much progress towards an extension since talks were held in March. The sides have had an ongoing dialogue, but they are dug in at this point in time. And so as we get closer to July 13th, a career-long Predator who loves his time in Nashville may face the choice that he has to go to the open market.
That was Chris Johnston on TSN's Insider Trading this weekend. And there hasn't been much progress since March. There hasn't been much progress since March, according to Chris Johnston. Can I ask what the hell David Poyle's been doing? The season ended a month ago. And, you know, maybe you take a couple days, and they had their exit meetings. And then finally, when they thought the temperature in the room had died down enough, they got up there and they gave that very emotional and awkward press conference. And what are they doing now? I mean, what are we doing that we can't make any progress from March until now?
If that's true, then I believe that all of the I's are dotted and all of the T's are crossed, and there's one thing that they're both just staring at each other, waiting for one or the other to bend the knee.
I don't think that's it. In fact, Elliot Friedman was on.
What's been going on for the past couple of months?
So Elliot Friedman was on Darren Donick and Chase last week, and I think he tells you everything you need to know when it comes to the Forsberg negotiations, which is exactly where both sides are right now. Here's what Elliot Friedman said last week.
Basically, what I've heard is that it's status quo, that, you know, I think right to this point, Forsberg knows how the Predators feel, and the Predators know how Forsberg feels. And I really wonder if we're going to need a deadline to sort this out. So I don't want to say to the Predators fans, we might still be grinding away at this for another 3 weeks or so, but it's not impossible that could be the case. I've had a couple people kind of hint to me that we might need a real deadline to figure out where we're going here.
Oh, so he's saying, hey, we need a deadline. Now, there is a deadline, and it is the day before free agency, because the day before free agency is the last day he can get the 8th year. So the deadline is that. Gabriel Landeskog and the Colorado Avalanche had the exact same issue last year, and they ended up working out their contract right before that deadline. But that's what this is. It isn't like they're just constantly negotiating back and forth. Forsberg knows what the Predators are offering. And by Forsberg, I mean his camp, J.P. Barry, and I'm sure Forsberg knows too. But J.P. Barry knows what the Predators are offering, and David Poyle knows what Philip Forsberg wants. And instead of actively trying to negotiate that, they're both trying to use time to get closer to the deadline in order to see which side will buckle first. How many times have I said the Nashville Predators don't have a plan B? They say they have a plan B, but they don't actually have a plan B. Over the last 4 weeks, how many times have I said that?
So many times.
Okay, they know that. Forsberg knows that. How many times have we said, and it's been obvious, that Philip Forsberg doesn't want to go somewhere else? Or even if it is that he wouldn't mind going somewhere else, he obviously wants to stay here.
It's very obvious.
Every time. He's said it, but his actions are proving it. So, again, each side is thinking, if Forsberg is willing, if he's willing to stay here for $9 million over 8, and he wants that deal, he wants Yossi's contract. So if he's looking at Yossi's contract and that's what he wants, is he really going to turn it down when we offer him 8.5 over those 7 years instead of the 9 over the 7 years? 8 years, because that's still the extra year. That still is age 37 season or whatever it is that he's going to get paid that he wouldn't get paid by anybody else because nobody else can actually pay him that. So we know that. So when push ultimately comes to shove, he wants $9 million and we're offering 8.75. And at some point, once, the push does officially come to shove, which goes back to Elliot's point about wanting a deadline, once that happens, then he will buckle. And I think the Forsberg camp, and again, this is a veteran agent, and they've played their hand right the entire time. The Forsberg camp is like, these guys are not going to be prepared to lose you. So we'll go out and we'll get a better deal somewhere else. We'll know where it's going to be because tampering's real. So we'll go out, we'll get you a better deal somewhere else, and you can take it, we can't take it back to them or else we'll get accused of tampering, but you can go to the Predators on that night and say, this is it, final offer. And those guys are so desperate for you because the backlash will be so strong if you don't come back that ultimately they'll do it. That's what this is. They're just waiting for the deadline. And then right around the deadline is when they'll actually have to start negotiating, which is sad. But that's what they're doing.
Also kind of scary.
But that's what they're doing. Oh, yeah. You start doing this, and all of a sudden, somebody might blink. And I go back to the Freddie Freeman story with the Braves, but Chipper Jones told Buster Olney at ESPN a couple of weeks after the Freeman deal that he talked to Freeman the next day, and that Freeman wishes he had had a do-over. And that he took Freeman aside in August of last year, and he said, hey, like, if you're going to do this, if you're going to challenge them, be ready, because they may have to move on. The difference is with that, there was somebody to move on to, and it had been leaked for months who it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been an ounce of leakage around here, and I think it's in large part because they don't have anybody else. So that's why I think that ultimately, there is a chance that and again, I still think it's 100% that he's coming back. But if they do wait till the last second to get the best deal, period, is it worth the possibility if you're David Poile of swinging and missing and then having everybody who's giving you the benefit of the doubt, who thinks that you can do this job, and it is dwindling by the day. But if you do that, you lose everybody. Is it worth it to you? Is it worth it to you to do that? Or are you better off giving him Roman Yossi's contract, which by the end of the contract, he won't be the general manager anyways, so who cares? And that's the position he puts himself in. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. 615-737-1025. What do we have on this?
One texter texts in about your comparison to Freddie Freeman and says, if you're making the Freeman comparison, the Braves still got an incredible younger first baseman, Matt Olson, as a trade-off. Maybe the Preds could get something similar in Johnny Hockey if that speculation comes into fruition, if Phil somehow does leave.
So I talked to somebody in the league, and I said, is there any chance Gaudreau comes here? And they said no. And then on top of that, you're going to have to pay more money. See, this is the thing. Again, going back to that analogy, it wasn't just like the Braves said, okay, we're not going to re-sign Freddie Freeman and we're just going to go sign Matt Olson. That's not what happened. They traded away 3 of their top prospects and even more so in order to get Matt Olson, and then they signed Matt Olson to the contract. Well, you listened to the Midday Show guys last week. They had on Adam Vingan, and Adam Vingan talked about what it would take in order for the Predators to acquire David Pastrnak from Boston. And then you have to pay David Pastrnak probably $10.5 million a year on an 8-year deal. And they were like, oh, man, that's too rich for us. I'm not interested in that. And again, I do think that ultimately that is the better decision. The younger, better player. It costs you more, and you have to give up prospects. But again, I don't care about prospects. It'll cost you prospects, but you get the better player. And in this case, I don't think David Poile is bold enough to do that. Because he doesn't make bold moves anymore. So that was a bold move. But that was a process-based, like the Braves are run as a process-based team. The Predators, hate to say it, they're run as a trade a second-round pick for Jeremy Lauzon team. They're I got this great theory. Here's my theory kind of team, and I don't like that. What's next?
Another texter texts in and says, I would be indifferent if Philip Forsberg walks because I think he's going to be overpaid. What I would be mad about is that we get nothing in return. I've been saying David Poile should go for a couple years now, and this would be a cherry on top to that sentiment.
I mean, honestly, I don't disagree with anything that texter just said. I have been thinking for a while, obviously, that it's time to make a change at that position, and I do think Forsberg's going to get overpaid, and I think while Forsberg is still in his prime, your team will not be good enough to compete. Now, there's some other factors in this. If Colorado wins tonight, they're going to sweep Tampa Bay. And then they will have swept everybody except for the St. Louis Blues. And the boo-hoo, the Avalanche were a great team, Jared. That crew will emerge out of, like, gophers out of the bottom of the ground. Like, it'll be like whack-a-mole, with that. And there may be some truth to that. But that's going to be the theory, that this team is really not that far away from competing, but that, hey, their competing is the same as the Lightning competing. What do you think about that? That is a possibility, which is the number one reason why I am rooting for the Lightning right now.
But also, the Lightning would have gotten swept in the finals.
Right.
The Predators got swept in the first round of the playoffs. If the Predators got past the first round of the playoffs, could they have really competed with Minnesota or St. Louis or Tampa Bay?
I think the argument's no, but they're going to tell you that the Predators are just as good as all those other teams that got swept.
I don't know how anyone can make that argument, but continue.
Oh, it'll be made.
Oh, I know.
It'll be made.
But it's not a correct argument.
I mean, come on now. It'll be made. It'll probably be made on this station. Not going to say who's making it, but I will say that it'll probably be made on this station.
I think it's a bold statement to make.
It'll be said. That, hey, Edmonton got swept too. You want to fire everybody over there? You want to fire Connor McDavid? Oh, Tampa Bay got swept. You want to fire John Cooper? That is undoubtedly coming if Colorado sweeps. I guarantee it. If Colorado sweeps Tampa Bay, we incessantly will hear that. Now, the second thing to this, though, is that I do believe, I think like what that texter said about how the getting him for nothing or losing him for nothing is just, maybe the cherry on top. I am hopeful that it will open everybody else's eyes to how I feel, but losing Philip Forsberg for nothing at this point, it would not shock me as the unthinkable, because when they didn't trade him at the trade deadline and they were so adamant about not trading him, it told me that this was a distinct possibility.
But you think 100% he's coming back.
I do. But the only way that but even if I thought he was 100% going to sign with me and he wanted to stay with me, I mean, I would have made him sign the day before the deadline. I would have told him the trade deadline is the deadline, and if you do not sign, you are out of here. Like, that is, I mean, I'm not taking, even the risk that I have right now that I think 100% he's coming back, I'm not taking. I mean, I'm making him because I'm not losing him for nothing. But again, I think the Predators are poorly run, and this is an example of how. This is an example of a Poile, this is what I say when I talk about the process. And for some people that maybe are giving the benefit of the doubt to the situation, they need to see the process absolutely fall apart in order to understand how it's flawed. Whereas I'm convinced it's flawed either way. So if he doesn't come, I'll be shocked. If he doesn't return, I will be shocked in the sense that I can't believe he's going somewhere else. Like, I can't believe that he actually wants to play somewhere else. And I can't believe that David would put his marbles out there like that. I will be shocked. But if David gets nothing in return for Philip Forsberg a decade after having the fans still this furious about what happened with Ryan Suter, well, that would just be screw up number 3. It would just be a continuation of the process. More your phone. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. So John Hines said that they were optimistic and confident they would keep Poile. Elliot Freeman interpreted that way differently than I did. We'll get to that coming up. And your phone. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Apple Collision Centers and the Nashville Superspeedway
on ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
On Fox 17, Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus, an air quality alert in effect throughout the entire day. If you have respiratory issues or are very active outdoors, limit your time outside. No humidity, but highs in the low 90s throughout the afternoon.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Where will you be for the Ally 400 at the Nashville Superspeedway? The Tootsie's Infield Club will be the coolest spot in the house before and during the race. With the shaded seating, cold drinks, and live music, it's just like Broadway at the Speedway. You'll be close to the bar, the bathroom, and all the action in Turn 4. How do you get in? Add a fan walk or pre-race track access pass to your Ally 400 ticket purchase, and we'll see you at the Tootsie's Infield Club.
As in all human conflict, adults fight and children suffer. Today, 7.5 million children in Ukraine need to find water and shelter. They need safety in school. They need a place to sleep and comfort in the dark. Show them the world cares. Support UNICEF on the ground in Ukraine. We won't stop until every child is safe. UNICEFUSA.org/action.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon, you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Our Cookie Two-Step Ice Cream is a creamy vanilla ice cream with hints of brown sugar, chunks of chocolate cream-filled cookies, and tasty chocolate chip cookie dough pieces. Cookie Two-Step has everybody's taste buds two-stepping, and 1 and 2.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell Ice Cream at select H.G. Hill supermarkets and Spring Street Market in Manchester.
7.5 million children in Ukraine need to find water and shelter. They need a place to sleep and comfort in the dark. Show them the world cares. Support UNICEF, UNICEFUSA.org/action.
Listen to Stillman and Company with me, Caroline Fenton, all season long on ESPN 102.5 The Game for your chance to win Nashville Sounds tickets courtesy of 312 Pizza Company in Germantown.
Darren McFarland.
I feel like we're a better playoff team.
Willie Donick.
You're in a window of a division you can win.
Chase McCabe.
I'm not signing him for more than $1 million.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company here on the program. So last week, John Hines went on the midday show on 615 Day, and he said that the Predators were pretty confident and optimistic that they would re-sign Philip Forsberg. We could play the whole cut for you, but like David Poyle, John Hines talks for a long time. So instead of 1:30 of him rambling to get to that, we'll just recap that he said that they were pretty confident and optimistic that they would get a deal done with Philip Forsberg. Elliot Friedman, Sportsnet, was on the midday show last week. And remember how I said that Hines is telling you Poyle's coming back. Forsberg's coming back. He's telling you that, yeah, we're pretty optimistic and we're confident that he's going to come back because he knows where the negotiations are. He knows what the player thinks. He knows what the team thinks. So he knows he's going to come back. Here's what Elliot Friedman had to say about those comments.
So yesterday, obviously, we asked John Hines about Philip Forsberg as tick-tock. Has anything changed on your end?
Well, first of all, I think I listened to what Hines had to say with you guys yesterday, and I think for the coach of the team, he sends the right message. Like, that is the message that John Hines has to convey, whether he believes it or not, or whether it's true or not. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not saying he's lying or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think in that moment, as the coach of the Nashville Predators, that is the message he has to deliver, that he's optimistic that it's going to find a way to turn out.
I don't know, man. I think if you're the coach of the Nashville Predators and you start selling people on something that doesn't happen, and you're not a very popular coach of the Nashville Predators, and you start selling people on something like that that's going to happen, and the exact opposite happens, I'd be worried about that. So I'm just saying, if John Hines is telling us he's pretty confident and optimistic that they're going to re-sign Philip Forsberg and they don't re-sign Philip Forsberg, I will be saying, what happened to optimistic, coach?
It's the same thing with AJ, though, in the way that the Titans handled it.
The foresee?
I don't foresee that happening. As long as I'm the coach of the Tennessee Titans, AJ will be here. So many empty promises that were made.
Is the coach of the Tennessee Titans unpopular?
No.
Yeah, there's a place. Vrabel can't say that stuff if they're 7-9. Like, if Vrabel loses, he's going to learn a really weird lesson, which is, and Belichick's learning it now, because Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, and he's such an arrogant a-hole that I'm telling you, I mean, Kraft's already put him on notice. Kraft has put him on notice. And that, like, you're going to learn a lesson that life's different at 7-9. And so right now, John Hines is at that level. John Hines is not at Mike Vrabel's level to say that kind of stuff. Because, again, and I've told you this, it's the way people treat me, which is if I ask an uncomfortable question and the fans like the person that I'm asking the uncomfortable question to,
they get mad about the question.
They get mad at me. If I ask an uncomfortable question and the person I'm asking the question to is Ryan Tannehill, they're like, yeah, so glad you hold him accountable, when really it's the same. And Hines is not popular around here. So with that, to your phones, Jeff has been waiting patiently. He's up next here on David Poyle. Thank you for calling. What's up, Jeff?
Good afternoon. Glad to be on with Stillman and Fenton. Hey, I, too, have been out on Poyle at least 2 years, probably more like 3. And we don't have time to go down all the garbage moves he's made the last 2 or 3 years, giving up a first-round pick for Ryan Hartman or $8 million to a third-pair defenseman. But here's the question I have, serious question, to all the defenders of David Poyle. If you take the big 4 professional sports that are played in North America, how many of those franchises would tolerate a GM that has had one team in 25 years to go past the second round in the playoffs? One
Jeff.
in 25 years. And
Jeff.
the answer to that is one, the Nashville freaking Predators.
Jeff.
Yes.
I want you to take this energy that you have right now. Now I want you to do something for me. Can you promise me that you will do this?
Well, it depends on what it is.
I want you to call the number you just called, 615-737-1025. I want you to call in tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I want you to pose the same question, because I think you'll hear a different answer than on this channel this show where we think that Poyle, I agree with you, but you said to the Poyle defenders, that is where they believe differently than we believe. And I appreciate your call, Jeff. They believe differently than we believe, and they believe that David has earned the right to keep running the team. I don't disagree with what he said there. And I'll say this about David. If I felt like the thing was going in the right direction, in spite of the one Stanley Cup final appearance in 23 years, I would say, hey, things are in the right direction. He keeps doing this, he keeps doing that. But to me, they're not. And I will say this, though. And we talked about this off air. We talked about this a little bit on air.
Mm-hmm.
If Colorado wins tonight, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to look at people like us, and they're going to say, Tampa couldn't do any better. Edmonton couldn't do any better. And they're gonna believe that.
And I see that argument, but I also just don't think it's justified. Because, yes, of course, Edmonton and maybe Tampa Bay would have ended up in the same situation as the Predators, and that's getting swept by the Colorado Avalanche. You can make that comparison, yes. But also, was the process the same? Is how you feel about the future the same? Because it's not just about not winning in the playoffs. It's the fact that I at least don't see a path to winning in the playoffs in the future.
It is absolutely 100% about not winning in the playoffs. That's the whole argument.
I'm saying it's not just about that.
We've made the playoffs 8 years in a row. Are you all not happy with that? Even though 2020 was still technically the play-ins,
fans
not
aren't
the
happy
playoffs.
with that. That's the thing.
Right, because we want to win in the playoffs. But the point is
but they're not winning in the playoffs.
But the point would be, so what? You want to fire John Cooper in Tampa Bay too? Because when he ran into this team,
well, they're winning in the playoffs.
Not to this team. And if they were in the Western Conference and they had drawn this team, would they have gotten swept? I'm just telling you what the argument's going to be. That's the argument. The argument is going to be.
And if Tampa Bay doesn't win, if they get swept by the Colorado Avalanche, I think Tampa Bay fans would look back and say, you know what, good season, looking forward to next year. Were Predators fans saying that after they got swept by the Colorado Avalanche? Probably not.
No, but it's just.
So it's about the process.
But it's just like what Chris Mason said on this show, just like what Willie and Darren said after it happened, which is that Colorado team is really, really good.
It is.
So you people all want to get mad about Poyle and Hines because they couldn't beat this Colorado team. They couldn't even win a game against this Colorado team. Well, neither could the Edmonton Oilers and neither could the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they're not firing their coach, and they're not moving on from John Cooper, who's headed to Toronto in the Hall of Fame. They're not moving on from those guys. So I guess if your team isn't Stamkos and even those guys couldn't win, like, I'm telling you that is the argument. I'm not saying the argument's right or wrong. I think I'm more open to having to deal with the ramifications of being wrong than maybe you seem. But let's carry this to the other side. 615-737-1025 and your phones. But I do think we are dangerously close from having to have a discussion about Tampa Bay. And if Tampa Bay gets swept by Colorado, the Boo-Hoo Poyle crew is going to win one. Like, there is no doubt about that in my mind. So we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The MTSU Blue Raiders live here.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee! 3-ball, yes, sir!
And when you're in the borough, tune us in on 97.5.
In the end zone, caught, touchdown!
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
People are driving from all over to shop at Genesis Diamonds right now to take advantage of our very best financing offer. Now extended through July 2nd. 5 years, zero interest financing with zero down. It's a fantastic opportunity, making everything more affordable. How about a $6,000 GIA certified diamond for just $100 a month? A $4,000 pair of diamond stud earrings, just $67 a month. Don't miss this. We will not be extending it again. 5 years, zero interest financing, exclusively at Genesis Diamonds. Open this Sunday. Green Hills and Cool Springs on approved credit.
The Authentically American 4th of July celebration is live and ready to ship. Go to authenticallyamerican.us right now to order yours. Plus 20% of all purchases from the 4th of July collection will be donated to Homes for Our Troops, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to build and donate specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Have a happy and safe 4th of July from Authentically American. Made for you. Made in America. Authentically American.
This is Monster Jam, the official Monster Truck Series. Witness the world's best drivers competing in your favorite Monster Jam trucks. Be part of the action.
Let's hear it. Make some noise.
Brought to you by Great Clips. Get your savings coupon from participating Great Clip salons and save 20% on select tickets. Restrictions and additional charges may apply. See savings coupon for details. Coming to Nissan Stadium June 25th.
7.5 million children in Ukraine need to find water and shelter. They need a place to sleep and comfort in the dark. Show them the world cares. Support UNICEF. UNICEFUSA.org/action.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
NASCAR is back. Kyle Larson returns to Nashville Superspeedway a winner.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving ESPN 1025. The game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So, Saturday I was doing my Sirius XM show from 6 to 10 at night. And I had on my iPad, as I was doing the show, I was watching Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am rooting wholeheartedly for Tampa Bay. I was rooting for Edmonton. I was rooting for St. Louis. I am rooting for Colorado to lose. And here is why I'm rooting for Colorado to lose and why I was rooting for Colorado to lose, because it would confirm my belief of what the Predators did not being good enough. They got swept by Colorado. And when they got swept by Colorado, the excuses were being made. The goalie was hurt, and, if Soros doesn't get hurt and they hold that 4-goal lead against Arizona, then they don't play Colorado. And every time I heard that, my eyes rolled in my head, and I was like, but they did play Colorado. And everybody was telling me, this Colorado team is unbeatable. They're unbelievable. They're unstoppable. And I knew Colorado was good. But I also know in hockey, every year there's an unbeatable, unstoppable, whatever team. If this team sweeps Tampa Bay, and if they win tonight, they will sweep Tampa Bay. If this team sweeps Tampa Bay, the two-time defending Cup champions, with at least 4 Hall of Famers on their team and a Hall of Famer on their bench, it's going to be hard to not admit that they ran into Colorado crew was right. Even though I don't believe it, I feel like the weight of the argument is gone. The embarrassing sweep against Colorado, that's gone. The fact that they had a 5-on-3 in Game 2 and Colorado got the best scoring chance on a 5-on-3. They got the best opportunity. I mean, some of the things we saw, the challenge in Game 3, pathetic. It was an awful series it was an awful series. And yet, if they sweep Tampa Bay, then you almost have to say, that Colorado team was so good. And even if David Poile is one of the best general managers and John Hines is one of the best coaches, it wouldn't have made much of a difference.
But I just don't think that if Colorado does sweep Tampa Bay, and even the existing sweeps of Edmonton, I don't think that all sweeps are created equally. Because I didn't step away after a sweep against Colorado and think, you know what, good job, guys. On to next season, you just came into a really good team. Although that was true. Although they did come into a very, very good team. And I think now we realize even more so just how good Colorado is. But still, I go back to Tampa Bay Lightning fans and the Tampa Bay organization can, if they do get swept, look at it and say this was a really tough series and this is a really freaking good team. And we'll be back next year. We still have a lot of talent. We can still compete in the future. They have 2 cups to show for it in the past 2 years. So I don't think any Predators fans can step away with that amount of confidence that Tampa Bay has. That's why I say not all sweeps are created equally, because the process isn't the same. The future isn't the same. The way that you can feel about the series just isn't the same.
Yeah, if you lose to an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament, you lost to an 8 seed, and that's not good. If that 8 seed goes on to win the championship, it makes it a lot easier. It dulls the pain. If you get swept by the Colorado Avalanche and everybody in town is up in arms about, oh, my God, it was embarrassing and this team stunk and this, that, and this was awful and this was bad and the coach got to go and the GM's got to go and you got to shake everything up. And then the best team over the last decade, a 2-time defending champion with all the players that you want on the Predators, a coach you would want to coach the Predators, an organization that is run the way that I want the Predators to be run, and they get swept by that team too, it takes the sting out of the argument. Nobody would have been calling for John Hines or David Poile to be fired after the series if they had beaten Colorado. And I would say that they would have had a much better chance. The temperature would have been in my opinion, it would have been much, cooler on them had they won a game, had they won 2 games. I remember Ryan Porth texting me and talking about how, if they had beaten Arizona, they probably go to 6 games and they lose to Calgary. And when they lose to Calgary, then everybody would say, well, it was a good season. They made the playoffs, whatever. But that by getting swept and embarrassed by Colorado, maybe it opened people's eyes to what's going on over here. But then if Colorado goes and does that to everybody, it's kind of hard. Did you watch what they – and I'm not saying did you see what they did. I'm like, did you actually watch in live time what they did Saturday night?
Bits and pieces, yes.
Ian, did you watch that in live time what happened Saturday night?
No, I did not.
That was an ass-kicking. I mean, that was an embarrassment. I mean, that was every 5 seconds there was a goal. Everything they did to you, you take a penalty, they go on the power play, goal Colorado. And that's Tampa. And we know Tampa's good. Now, let me say this. I'm not ready to commit to this yet because Tampa was down 2-0 to the Rangers, and they won 4 straight. And Tampa's not going to give in. And that building in Tampa is going to be popping tonight. But I will say this. We dogged the Predators. We dogged them when they got beat by Colorado. And we dogged the coach, and we dogged the general manager, and we dogged the roster, and we dogged them. And if they go out there, and the big excuse, Chris Mason came on this show and debated it. And he kept saying they just ran into a better team. They just ran into an unbelievable team. That Avalanche team is such a good team.
And he's not wrong.
And
it is a very good team.
No fan wants to hear well, they were really good. But it is easier to accept it when another team that everybody knows is really good, that has the skins on the wall, gets the same fate you get. Like, I'm one of these people that, I know people don't believe this. I do not have a problem looking at a decision that I've made and saying, I don't know if that was the right choice right there. And I'm telling you that if Colorado, and this is a big if because they haven't done it yet, if Colorado sweeps Tampa Bay, if they do, it's going to be harder to look at that Colorado series and blame the coach. It's going to be harder to look at the team and say that they're going in the wrong direction, even though I think they're going in the wrong direction. It's going to be harder to say that when they had 97 points this year. And even though that last month of the year they got smoked by all these teams, it's going to be harder. I'm just telling you the truth.
And that's also making a big assumption that Colorado will sweep Tampa Bay.
I kept saying if. Again, I think Tampa Bay's probably going to win tonight. I'm not sure. I don't know, man. Colorado beat the crap out of them. I mean, Colorado absolutely freaking smoked them. Now, game 1 went to overtime. So I saw game 1 and I thought, okay, Tampa's going to win the series. Because what's going to happen is Tampa gets last change, and they're that close to begin with, and Tampa's got the experience. So and then when I saw the other night, I was like, oh my God. I watched it in live time, and I was like, the Boohoo Preds crew is going to have a field day if they sweep Tampa Bay. Let's go to your phones, because I did promise phones, and I saw a couple of them drop off while we were talking. 615-737-1025. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com.
One texter checks in about Philip Forsberg and says real fans want to see Forsberg gone, so David Poile will leave as well.
I mean, I don't disagree with that because I kind of feel the same way. Plus, again, I just keep thinking about competing for championships. Now, here's the thing. Going back to competing for championships. If Colorado sweeps Tampa Bay, the idea that you're a lot closer to competing for a championship than we led everybody to believe or we believed will exist. It may not be right, but it will exist. And I do not believe this team can compete for a championship as is constructed. I do not believe that this team with Philip Forsberg can compete with a championship. And I think the easiest way to get better is to not sink 8 years into a 28-year-old, and then by the time he's 35 years old, hope that you've got a competitor.
Well, going into the season, didn't the team pretty much admit that they weren't good enough to win a championship with the competitive rebuild slogan?
I don't know, because I asked that question, and we played that clip, and it
like to me, that's like
feel that way.
Yeah, but it's when you're when you're telling people you're gonna be in competitive rebuild, that doesn't necessarily scream, "Hey, we're going for the cup this year."
Here's the problem with the term competitive, is it's so ambiguous.
It's so What exactly does competitive mean?
I think it meant they're gonna be not as good, but they're not gonna be Detroit.
And that could be true. If Tampa gets swept by Colorado, you can argue that you were just as competitive as Tampa Bay. You can argue that you were just as competitive as Edmonton. And we will get that argument if that is, in fact, what happened.
Just going into the season, I'm not sure they were trying to let everybody know, hey, we're a cup team.
You know what move I think really screwed them up in perceptions of everything around here?
What?
The Lauzon trade. Because if you really are and I think, this goes back to the thing we were talking about last week about no more bad players.
Uh-huh.
because I'm tired of trading for Cody Glass and being like, hey, Cody Glass, he was picked high in the draft 5 years ago. He might be good 2 weeks into the season. Down to the minors. Oh, yeah, he's really good, isn't he? Ha, ha, ha. You know, that kind of thing. Because, like, Glass was a bad player, and Philip Myers, they freaking protected. Like, they protected from Seattle, and a month into the year, they waived him. And then they traded a second-round pick. That's Roman Yossi. They traded a second-round pick for Jeremy Lazan, who freaking sucks. And so they make those moves, and it's like, you know, if you were telling me that you were just dumping Ellis's salary and that these guys, you hope maybe they might be good, but you know in your heart they're not good, like all the Pierres were writing that they weren't very good when the Predators made that deal, fine. Like, if Poyle had the press conference and said, we had to get out of this contract, that's why we did what we did, not the, you know, we think Cody Glass could be a pretty good player. If they would just tell the truth, then I think it would be easier to stomach. But then when you trade a second-round pick for Jeremy Lazan, that is not a long-term move. That's just
it's a lot of not very high-impact moves.
But again, the Lazan trade, like a second-round pick for a third-pair defenseman, is something that a cup contender does. A cup contender. That is a move they make. So if you're competitively rebuilding and you're focusing on the word rebuilding, you don't trade away second-round picks. That's the opposite of what you do. So that's what leaves everybody very, very, very confused. More of your phone, 615-737-1025 on this. I do have some Derrick Henry stuff I want to get to, so we will get to that. 615-737-1025. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman & Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
With your home value up again, you are sitting on a pile of money. So don't let it sit there. Use it. Willie Donick here for my friends once again at Loan Pronto. Introducing Loan Pronto's Equity Line of Credit program. You don't have to refinance, but you can access up to 97% of your home's value. Get cash now to pay off all your credit cards or do that home improvement project. Get your down payment for a new home or stash away for a safety net. You can get $50,000, even $100,000 or more out of your home. And the payments are crazy low. Think what you could do with $100,000 right now. Loan Pronto makes unlocking your equity easy, and they can probably even waive the appraisal. Don't just let all that home equity pile up. Turn your house into an ATM machine and get the cash you need. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
7.5 million children in Ukraine need to find water and shelter. They need a place to sleep and comfort in the dark. Show them the world cares. Support UNICEF, unicefusa.org/action.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge.
But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $69.99.
You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
We were also throwing out there, let's say Forsberg is back in the mix and David Poile wants to also make another splash move. Do you see that being in the cards as well?
Well, he's got some flexibility, right?
Yes.
I know I've said this to you guys a lot, and I'm sure fans who listen on this radio station have heard he's going to hit a dinky single the opposite field. He puts the Aaron Judge bat on his shoulder, and he swings.
Wow.
And for that reason, I'm always expecting him to try to do different things.
When was the last time? Boy, I would love to have Elliot Friedman on the show sometime. Because when's the last time David Poile stepped up to the plate with the Aaron Judge bat? Aaron Judge, by the way, has about 45 home runs in 45 games. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, that's what he's referencing there. When's the last, Ian, help me out here. When's the last, big, bold move the Predators made? Dumping Victor Arvidsson for a pair of draft picks is not a big, huge, bold move.
Well, if you can combine the Arvidsson and Ellis moves together, that's relatively bold as far as what you're doing to the core of your team. It's probably...
I would have to go back and say the PK Duchesne flip was probably, and everybody, it wasn't surprising because it had been hinted at a lot, but the PK Duchesne flip, I think, has to be the big, bad, bold move. The only other thing I can come up with is when they fired Laviolette and they hired John Hines, who had no success in New Jersey. They hired John Hines within 12 hours. That was bold because a lot of people were sitting there looking at that resume thinking, what? And I'm not sure I'd say that it's worked out for him. So, Elliot can say that, hey, David Poile steps up to the plate like Aaron Judge, and he takes big cracks at it. And I'm like, man, I hope you're right.
And that's what, 2, 3 bold moves in the past 4, 5 years?
Well, you don't have to make a bold move every year.
No.
But
I'm not going to say that you make Aaron Judge cracks at big-time moves and then you've only made 3 in the past 5 years.
I just know this. There are moves like that to be made, and they've got the cap space to make it. But I'd be shocked. I promised phones, so phones we go. 615-737-1025. What do we have?
Neil texts in and says, I love Forsberg, but if the Preds can't sign him, what's the plan? The organization keeps saying that there's a plan B, and you continue to lose players for nothing just to lose in the first round of the playoffs. I personally would not renew my season tickets after next season.
So I will say this. I do believe, and I've told you that I am keeping my season tickets. I've already renewed them. I renewed them in March of this past year because I do trust the top of the organization. If you as a fan feel differently, I get mad about this only because from the David Poile angle here, re-signing Forsberg is not the hard part. The hard part was at the trade deadline. The hard part was if we can't make progress to where we feel like we can get a deal done, and while we don't know anything for a fact because nobody will tell you, but all of the reporting says that they don't feel confident, other than the coach who said he did feel confident. But at the time of the trade deadline, if you were not 100% sure that you were going to sign this guy, you had to trade him. Like, you had to trade him, especially at the prices that things were going for. It's like the Herschel Walker trade all over again. Mm-hmm. And again, the whole key, Jimmy Johnson has said this, and there's an ESPN documentary about the Herschel Walker trade. And Jimmy Johnson's like, the most important element of what we did was we drafted the right players. If you don't draft the right players, it doesn't matter. So they drafted Emmitt Smith. They drafted Russell Maryland. They drafted Darren Woodson. They acquired Charles Haley with all the picks that they ended up getting for Herschel Walker, and that's why everybody looks at that trade. They say, wow. Well, what you would have gotten for Forsberg at the deadline would have been astronomical. So then if you draft good players with those picks, then just like when the Boston Bruins traded Phil Kessel and they got the picks for Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton, like that is what you would have had to do. But they decided not to do it. Well, then you better know you're going to sign this guy. But the fact that they didn't and that it's gotten to this point where there's these, vague threats of plan B, C, and D, like the fact that it's gotten here, the process is so bad that it is disheartening to me to see how this team is run. With a lot of the fans, I think it's just purely results-based, which is if you sign them, good job. If you don't sign them, I'm giving up my tickets. And to me, the disheartening element is not the result, but it is how you got there. And the how you got there here is a total cluster, unless they've got a deal in their head that they know he's going to take, and they're just trying to, wring every last dollar out of it. And if that's the case, I would say, instead of that, why don't you just save $2 extra million every year and not trade a second-round pick for Jeremy Lozon and not give him that contract?
That would be a pretty smart business move.
What else we got?
Taylor texts in and says, if you're going to compete, I'd rather trade for Kachuk. Needs an extension as an RFA, plays Heinz hockey, but can score. Give up first plus Tolvanen and pros if we're going to pick late.
Whatever. I mean, you're not a... Is it Brady Kachuk that he's talking about?
Probably so, yeah.
Matthew Kachuk, probably, from Calgary. You
think it's Matthew from Calgary? Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't think you're one of those players away. Sorry. And again, to me, I like if I'm not bringing Philip Forsberg back, it's because I'm getting David Pastrnak. It's because I'm getting an elite level player. And I just don't think that you can get those guys. Now, I do wonder, the one team I do wonder about is Toronto, because they need cap relief. Toronto's got too many good players, and they're not the only team that's in this boat. There's going to be a handful of teams, but is there a way you can snag one of those babies? And it's not going to be Matthews. It's probably not going to be Tavares, because I think Tavares has a no-movement clause, and I doubt Tavares would come here. And isn't he kind of on the back nine at this point, Ian?
Mm-hmm. And he's a Toronto guy.
Yeah, I mean, when he signed with Toronto, he posted the picture of him in Toronto Maple Leafs pajamas as a kid. So he's not coming here. But Marner, that kind of player.
Or if they go crazy and try to offer sheet somebody who's an RFA, like Patrick Laine or something like that.
David Boyle is not taking unless he's actually going to swing his Aaron Judge bat, he's not going to do that.
There's options.
No, there's options, for sure. I've never understood Laine. Because when Winnipeg was good, which is the only time I ever cared about Winnipeg, when Winnipeg was good, Laine was freaking good. And he was 22 at that time? So I don't know why he hasn't developed into the freaking superstar that he looked like he was going to be with the Jets. No clue about that. What's next?
Matt and Mount Juliet texts in and says, protecting Jeannot over Duchesne and Johansson was pretty bold.
That is not bold.
Not protecting your $8 million players who haven't been playing like $8 million players, I don't think is bold. Now, I will say, I thought protecting Tanner Jeannot was a questionable move at the time.
Now, here's my thing on Boyle.
Work very well.
Here's my thing on Boyle. If you give him credit for that, you have to blame him for protecting Philip Myers.
Okay.
Calle Yarncroke,
I can do that.
I believe Calle Yarncroke at the deadline went for 2 2s and a 3. I want to say that's what he went for. So that's what was on your team that you gave away to Seattle for nothing was Calle Yarncroke. And they decided to protect Philip Myers, who they then waived a month later. And everybody knew Philip Myers was no good because Adam Vinkin told us that Philip Myers was no good. And you know my rule about trades with the Predators. Unless it's a prospect, and again, that is, you got to be a high-level prospect for me to get excited because I don't, hockey prospects, who knows. But if the Predators trade for players that I've never heard of before, then I automatically rule them out. Because I've gotten too often where they've traded for guys, and then they've told us that these guys are good players, and then they're not. So that's my rule. After all these trades they've made, that if I don't know who it is, then they're probably not that good. And so that's how I feel about that Cody Glass, Philip Myers trade and the pumping of the tires. Now, this goes back to being honest, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say that they knew that Myers kind of sucked, but they were doing this as a dumping of Ryan Ellis' salary. if the Predators had been honest with the fans at that point in time and had said that, like, hey, like, we know that these guys aren't all that good, but we're bringing them in here with hope.
The move we needed to make.
Then they don't have to protect them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Then they don't have to protect them. But because it's like, no, we really wanted these players, they protected Philip Myers. So as much crap as I've gotten for the Jeannot thing, I've officially decided that if you're going to give Poile credit, if you're going to say, hey, Poile knows all, he protected Tanner Jeannot, then I'm going to say, well, he also protected Philip Myers and waived him a month later. So how smart was that? What else we got?
Another texter texts in and says, any more thoughts on David Pastrnak? Think he could look good in a Predators jersey?
I do, but I think there's going to have to be some more. We're going to have to hear some more smoke from the agent. And unfortunately, the agent is the same guy who represents Forsberg. So that may be a, one-hand deal to the next-hand deal to the, somebody at the league told me, and I asked them about Pastrnak and the Predators, and they said, if you can't pay Forsberg, how would you be able to pay Pastrnak?
But is it about not being able to pay Forsberg, or they just don't want to pay Forsberg past a certain price
So that was what I said, which is he's the better player. So if he's the better player, you're going to pay more money for the better player than you'd be willing to pay for the other guy. But I think there's a lot of skepticism about the Predators. There's skepticism about, does Pastrnak want to be traded? And then there's skepticism about, do the Predators want to bring in Pastrnak? Would the Predators have the guts to be able to do this with everything they'd have to give up, the contract they'd have to give Pastrnak, and probably the no movement assessment, considering the fact that he's coming to you, and then you'd have to do this after dumping on Philip Forsberg. And I think they like Forsberg more than I like Forsberg, so I have a hard time seeing all of that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. I'll be honest with all of you. I'm nervous about Derrick Henry going into this year. Derrick is apparently not nervous about Derrick, but I'm nervous about Derrick. But an all-time great is not nervous whatsoever about Derrick. In fact, doesn't even discuss his lack of nerves with Derrick. I'll explain what I mean. That's coming up next. ESPN 102 and 106, 102.5 and 106.3. The Game is Nashville's home for NASCAR. Tune in Friday through Sunday for the following. I already read this. This Thursday, 102.5 The Game will be at Nissan Stadium in the South Plaza from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. as Monster Jam is set to announce something big. What could that be?
Ooh.
Also, Monster Jam is partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank. We like this. And is hosting a community food drive to support Nashville families facing hunger. This one's screwing me up. Monster Jam, Second Harvest Food Bank, Nashville families, and Nashville farmers. I'm sorry. I'm screwing up on this one. For every 5 non-perishable items that fans donate, fans will receive 1 complimentary ticket to this Saturday's Monster Jam event. Tickets are available for the first 250 donations on site while supplies last. Limit 4 complimentary vouchers per family or household. For more information, visit monsterjam.com.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
and I-840,
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
there's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams. This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have 2 choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. Being arrested doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. Being served with custody paperwork doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. It may feel that way, but if you have Amanda J. Gentry representing you, you can feel confident that you're going to have the best quality representation in all of Middle Tennessee. Amanda J. Gentry goes wherever justice demands. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Upgrade her diamond ring this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Yes, this killer offer has been extended through July 2nd. Our most aggressive offer of the year continues, but won't be extended again. It's not just on engagement rings. It's earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So that $5,000 eternity band comes out to just $85 a month. One-of-a-kind designer jewelry is also included in this amazing offer. Now through July 2nd at Genesis Diamonds. Open this Sunday. Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Meet Boost, the fizzing amazing vitamin boosts that turn your H2O into H2O, so you feel like
I like to boost it, my vitamins can boost it. I like to boost it, we like to boost it.
Because it's not just vitamins, it's Boost, the fizzing amazing vitamin boost.
Find Boost, the vitamin boosts, at Walmart or Walmart.com and give yourself a boost with Boost.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
Scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
When you look at what you were able to do the season before the injury and even leading up to the injury, like, it's safe to kind of call you unstoppable. Have you kind of looked at that injury like as a challenge to show yourself that, you know, you could get back to where you were and prove to people who are doubting you? You look at that as a challenge?
Yeah, I get motivated by anything. I mean, something can motivate me, you wouldn't even know it. So, that definitely motivated me. And the doubters, whatever they want to be, I'm definitely motivated. I'm ready to go. So we're gonna see.
That was Derrick Henry last week. I think I'm a doubter. I think if you had to label me about how I feel about Derrick this upcoming season, and Ian, back me up on this, there has been no bigger supporter of Derrick Henry throughout his full 6 years as a Titan than me.
Let the big dog eat.
Let the big dog eat. And I had to argue with the old man about that. I had to watch Mike Vrabel play Dion freaking Lewis, who freaking sucked, and David Fluellen ahead of him. I had to listen to Joe Rexrode and read Joe Rexrode talking about how Fluellen deserved to be ahead of Derrick Henry on the depth chart, and I just kept saying, let the big dog eat. And then Matt LaFleur finally gave him the ball at the 1 yard line. He went and took it 99 yards, set an NFL record, tied it with Tony Dorsett for all-time greatest touchdowns. Then he ran for 238 yards in that game, 4 touchdowns. And I kept saying, see? We were at an Academy Sports and Outdoors in Cool Springs. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I kept saying, see? And then he ran for 170 yards the next week against the Giants. Then he ended up rushing for 1,000 yards, in which Corey Curtis, I believe, owes like $50 to the Second Harvest Food Bank, which I'm not sure he ever paid. But he does owe that because he bet me that he didn't think Derrick would get to 1,000 yards. So don't be coming around me saying that I haven't believed in Derrick Henry. I have more than anybody else. But I think I'm a doubter. I am nervous. Again, I'm not saying they should do anything differently. I'm not saying they should get another running back. But I am nervous that Derrick Henry is not going to be able to be Derrick Henry anymore. And I'm nervous because of the age and the position. I'm nervous because of the injury last year. I'm nervous because of the playoff game. I'm nervous because of the last 2 playoff games. But Eric Dickerson's not. He was on Ryan Clark's podcast, The Pivot, and I believe Fred Taylor is also on this podcast. And they had Eric Dickerson on, and they asked Eric Dickerson who the top 5 running backs in the NFL are, and listen to ED's response. And remember, we love ED around here because he brought us the, we don't want to almost win, we want to win line talking about the Rams. So we love Eric Dickerson. This is what Eric Dickerson said about the top running backs in the league.
Who are your top 5 backs in the game today?
Right now?
Right
Five?
now.
That's
Just
tough.
5. It usually changes, but 5. Easy 5.
I'm just gonna go by team. Like you name it.
That's fine.
There's gonna be
That's
some
fine.
big old sons of.
I know
You know
Derrick Henry. That's my number 1.
I mean, not even, there wasn't even a discussion.
Like, Derrick Henry's my number 1.
I mean, the other guys, Zeke was number 2 for him, and then he had to defend why he was picking Zeke. He said that Zeke's tough. He runs between the tackles. Then you could tell Eric Dickerson was kind of thinking, like, okay, who else is out there? And he was like, he said Saquon Barkley.
3.
And his argument for Saquon was that he's never had a chance because he's been on a crap team, which is
There
fair.
could be some truth to that.
McCaffrey, he was talking about McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor's 4, and then McCaffrey is 5. And so, again, ED, and I love Eric Dickerson. I love Eric Dickerson. I met Eric Dickerson one time. It was at the Combine a handful of years ago. And, that was just when I was just Floyd's sidekick kind of around everybody else at the Combine. I met Eric Dickerson one time. I've never watched Eric Dickerson play. I never cared for Eric Dickerson when he was on the sidelines of Monday Night Football. But I love Eric Dickerson because he pushed Jeff Fisher out of L.A. And he really held Jeff Fisher's ass to the fire. And I'm forever thankful for that. Jeff Fisher, who, by the way, and this monstrosity of a television product that is called the USFL that nobody goes to, that nobody watches, that just, absolutely
but
sucks.
It's always on.
2-8 this season. End of the year, 2-8. So if there's any question about whether or not Jeff Fisher sucks, he was 2-8. So I love Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson says without hesitation that Derrick Henry's the best running back in all of football. How do we feel?
Well, I feel 2 different types of ways because I don't think that Eric Dickerson is wrong. But I also look at the rest of Eric Dickerson's list and it raises a few red flags.
It reads like Eric Dickerson does not watch the NFL.
Yes. Because I hear Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley and Zeke. And yes, I would say that they could be on the list a couple of years ago. But now, Saquon and Christian McCaffrey are consistently hurt. Zeke, I think, is past his prime. I don't think that the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl because of anything that Ezekiel Elliott does.
I think Zeke's fat.
Okay. I'm not going to go there, but you can call him fat if you like.
I think Zeke got fat. And this goes back to the fat and happy thing. Like, guy gets paid, then all of a sudden... Maybe I'm wrong.
And I don't think that's something that we have to worry about with Derrick Henry, but I wouldn't call Ezekiel Elliott the second best running back in the league. So I would agree with Eric Dickerson that Derrick Henry, if you're not going to call him the best running back in the league, he's got to be in your top 3. So he's not wrong in that. But the rest of the list is very concerning to me.
I think Derrick Henry, to me, the argument for best running back in the NFL, and I'm like ED, right? Like, I don't watch every team play. I'm not one of these guys who's going to get on here and pretend like I watch the Atlanta Falcons play, so I'm going to tell you about the Atlanta Falcons running back. I don't watch the Atlanta Falcons play. I know what everybody else knows. I know what, I see the highlights. I watch SportsCenter and all the shows, and I know that. Now, I know everything there is to know about the Titans.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the running backs for, I don't know, pick a random team. The Ravens. I don't know. So I would say this, just the general consensus around the league. I think there's only 2 people when it comes to who's the best running back in the NFL. It's either Taylor or Henry. And the argument, I think, for Taylor is that his future is still ahead of him and he's not injured. And for Henry, it is that he's done things Jonathan Taylor hasn't done. Jonathan Taylor played 17 games last year. How many yards did he run for last year? 1,700? He didn't get 2,000. I know he won the rushing championship last year, but he didn't get 2,000.
But also, Derrick Henry was ahead of him in terms of rushing yards for like 3 or 4 weeks after he was injured.
Derrick Henry was kicking everybody's ass. Now, Derrick Henry
1,800 last
was
year
getting the ball. Derrick Henry got the ball more than every running back in the NFL. And there are some people, and you may be right about this, there are some people that believe that all that wear and tear led to the foot injury. It's like Trevor Maddich said that it honestly was a combination of both. And he had the same injury. So there's probably some truth to that. if your argument is Taylor, I think it is the recency bias of the fact that Taylor led the league in rushing last year.
And he's also younger.
If your
and
argument
healthier
is
than Derrick
Henry, I think it is what he's accomplished, but I have the fear of what's to come. Nick Chubb should also probably be on that list in Cleveland. But, I mean, I will say this. I'm skeptical. And Derrick Henry can count me as a doubter and say, hey, these are the things that are motivating me or whatever. I'm skeptical. And I'm skeptical because of what happened. It's like I felt that day that he got hurt. And I felt so bad for him because I felt like he was running right into Canton. Like I felt like he was headed to the Hall of Fame that day. And then all of a sudden his foot's broken. He's out for the rest of the season. Maybe he comes back the last week of the year. Who knows? But at that point, 2,000 yards is gone. A third consecutive rushing title is gone. And had he accomplished those things, he would have for sure been headed to the Hall of Fame. And so I hated that for him because right now he is not for sure headed to the Hall of Fame.
No.
And the history of running backs makes it impossible to assume that there's not a possibility that he could be headed towards the end. I watched it with Eddie George. And I loved Eddie George, and I chanted like every other Titan fan between the years of 1999 and 2004 that every time that he got the ball and the place would go crazy and they start chanting Eddie, Eddie, and they'd put it on the scoreboard, and I did all that. But I watched Eddie George after the 2000 season, after they gave him the rock constantly in 99 and 2000. And in 2001, Eddie George just couldn't run anymore. And then in 2002 and 2003, Eddie still got 1,000 yards. But it was a painful 1,000 yards. Madden and Michaels were talking about that on a Monday Night Football broadcast in 2002, which is Eddie George has the lowest yards per carry of any running back that has X amount of carries in the NFL. And I watched Eddie go to Dallas, and I watched Eddie get put on the bench. And I say this as somebody who has an immense amount of respect for Eddie, was a humongous Eddie fan, talked to Eddie last week. I love Eddie. But what happened to Eddie does have me nervous about what could happen to Derrick. And so that's where I know Eric Dickerson likes Derrick Henry because a lot of people compare Derrick Henry to Eric Dickerson, though I think Derrick was bigger. I think ED was probably faster. Although straight line speed, Derrick was probably faster than Eric Dickerson. But, I mean, Eric Dickerson was the man. But maybe Derrick is the same Derrick. But I just can't go there with ED. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. There also been a lot of talk about Derrick Henry's contract. I talked to an NFL agent. I said, what do you do with Derrick Henry's contract? And I was actually kind of surprised. We'll get to that coming up next right here, Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025, The Game.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman & Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 1025 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
He scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
On Fox 17, Code Red meteorologist Greg Bobus, an air quality alert in effect throughout the entire day. If you have respiratory issues or are very active outdoors, limit your time outside. No humidity, but highs in the low 90s throughout the afternoon.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
The Specialized Recruiting Group takes an individual approach to placing people in jobs, and they're ready to help you find your next opportunity. Visit srgexpress.com for your next role.
We're in the most active season of the year right now, but if you've got joint pain, you may be on the sidelines. Hips, knees, back pain, shoulder pain. It sucks the fun out of living, but I've got the solution. QC Kinetics, helping people here in our listening area get the fun back. It's regenerative medicine. It's the hottest thing going. It's basically taking growth factors with the healing properties from your own body, highly concentrated, then putting them into your aching joints. This is exciting. It's in the office. It's non-surgical. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. So stop putting it off. Call QC Kinetics and learn more about regenerative medicine and get a free in-office consultation now. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics. Repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints and get the long-lasting relief from pain.
Make every day a good old day with the hand-cranked taste of Bluebell ice cream. The good old days are being made right now.
Bob's Steak and Chop House is a renowned award-winning steakhouse in major cities across the U.S. Nashville is lucky to have a location here in downtown at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Fine dining is brought to a new level at Bob's with awards like the Wine Spectator Award 4 years in a row, TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence 5 years in a row, and Open Tables Diner's Choice Award 6 years in a row. Fine dining at its best. Bob's Steak and Chop House, open Wednesday through Saturday, 5 to 10 p.m. in the Omni Nashville Hotel. Complimentary valet parking is always available.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Robbie Stanley.
To avoid non-contact injuries and not repeat last year.
Joe Rexroad.
Just wait until next year's national TV schedule comes out.
Robbie and Rexroad. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Derek, there was a report that the Titans would be open to working on a new contract with you. Would you be excited about that? How would you feel about the idea of working on a new contract with the Titans?
I mean, it's always good to get a promotion at your job. When you think so, you get a promotion. That's always good. But, yeah, man, I'm just trying to work through that. I mean, I'm currently still on a contract, and if that's what the future holds, then yeah, I mean, that'd be great.
Derek, do you want a contract extension?
Yes. Of course he does.
Pretty obvious.
That's not really breaking news.
Pretty obvious that he'd like a contract extension, although in the past, Derek has been very quick to not talk about it. Derek, though, and I understand why Derek feels the way he feels. I heard the midday show when I was driving today talking about, to TD, about whether or not they should give Derrick Henry a contract extension. I do think, as the Rams proved a couple of weeks ago, that sometimes you have to pay your guys, even if there's not really a huge salary cap reason for doing it. And as we know, the salary cap is bullcrap. But when there's not a huge salary cap reason to doing it, sometimes you do it, and maybe it sends a message to the locker room, and maybe it's the right choice. I had Joel Corey, CBS, former NFL agent. He, went to the greatest high school in all of America. He has come on our show many a time, but I had Joel Corey on Sirius XM. We were talking about Lamar Jackson's contract, and we were talking about, Baker Mayfield and things like that. But I asked him about Derrick Henry's contract. And here's what Joel Corey said when I asked about the idea of the Titans giving a modification or extension to Derrick Henry's contract.
To me, that would be extremely irresponsible. Running backs have a shorter shelf life than most other positions. It's the one position where you get, historically, one bite of the apple. You got one chance to get paid. You're not getting another one. He actually, in a weird way, is fortunate that he missed the second half of the season. He's going to be approaching 475 carries if they kept up that same pace. You're going to get, if history is any indication, diminishing returns for those years of the extension.
And not only did Joel think that, but he also, so he says it's irresponsible to give Derrick Henry a new contract. Plus, he said, look at how the Titans did without him.
The Titans were the number one seed in the AFC without him. So if you can go 6-3 without him, 6-2 with him, I know the replacements worked Derrick Henry, but you figured out a way where you didn't collapse without him. If anything, I would modify year 4 to where if you're in the top 5 in rushing, then next year becomes guaranteed. But outside of that, I'm not doing anything to his contract if I'm the Titans.
Okay, so you incentivize next year, and you say, hey, if you do well enough in 2022, then it'll guarantee 2023, which I'm fine with. And then you would present that as an extension. Are you okay with that? Or do you think, no, just leave it be? Or do you feel like the Titans owe Derek some sense of loyalty or something to give him a deal in which he feels like what he's done is being respected and that the team still believes in him at the same level Eric Dickerson believes at him, who said that he's still the best running back in the NFL?
I mean, I don't think an extension is a good move, but I do also think that you have to give Derrick Henry a little bit of something to show, thanks for what you already have done, and we still believe in you to be the backbone of this offense. We believe in Derrick Henry. So while an extension, I don't think should be in the cards right now. I mean, he just came off of an injury. At least evaluate where he's at and do what's best for your team. You can't just be handing out extensions just as thank you cards. But I do think that the Titans owe Derrick Henry something, whether that's, that would probably be a raise on next year's contract. I do think that's fair. But I don't think an extension should be in the cards right now.
So the only thing I think they can do is I think they can guarantee next year if they incentivize it for this year. So if he wins the rushing title next year, it guarantees next year. If he wins the rushing title in 22, it guarantees the contract in 23. That's all I can give you. And I would say this, if I'm the Titans, and they kind of already know this, but after the fallout of AJ, followed by basically telling Derrick Henry and Jeffrey Simmons, hey, we know that you're interested in new contracts, but just know that now everything's going to become a business decision. Maybe they already operate that way. Maybe that was how they operated with DeMarco Murray. Maybe that was how maybe all these guys. Taylor Lewan has admitted that he knows that they want Petit Ferrer to win the left tackle job one day and to have Dylan Radunz play right tackle and for those guys to make hundreds of thousands of dollars as opposed to the $15 million he makes, and that in a perfect world they'd get rid of him. He knows that. So maybe that's just how it is, the business of football, but I'm with Joel on the first part. I think it would be irresponsible to give Derrick Henry a contract extension, and I don't think there's anything that you could actually offer Derrick that wouldn't be some slap in the face. So I just think that as much as I'd like to do well by Derrick, I am skeptical. And maybe he can use that as motivation and go out there and play and then be willing to retire after this year, tell the Titans, like Aaron Donald told the Rams, I want a new contract, I'm going to retire. Because Derrick can do that. And then the Titans would have to give Derrick, more guaranteed money and a new contract and everything else. But I think he's at a point where he has to earn it. What do we have on our phone line? 615-737-1025. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Andrew checks in and says, why do the Titans owe the fourth highest yardage running back in team history anything? If Derrick plays great, he can get lots of money. Until then, play for what you have already signed for.
So I don't necessarily agree with that. And I'll use Aaron Donald as the example. It's all about leverage. Mm-hmm. It's all about leverage. It's this sense of what leverage does Derrick have? Derrick has made good money. I think Derrick got $12 million maybe to sign. And I want to say he made about 14 or 15. I heard somewhere that only Saquon Barkley and I think Ezekiel Elliott have made more cash than Derrick Henry over the last 2 years. And I could be wrong about that, but I think it was only two running backs have made more actual cash than Derrick Henry over the last couple of years. But I do think the way the deck is stacked, Derrick's in a tough spot. And $2.5 million is nothing to scoff at that position. But, I do think at some point your organization does owe your guy. The question is there a benefit to the team? And I'm just not sure there is. Whereas with Cooper Kupp, it was, well, if we do the contract now, then we don't have to do it later. So right now,
the price is only going to go up.
It's $26 million. So if we do it now, then it won't be $30 million the time we come around to do it. If the Titans do a deal with Jeffrey Simmons, and I hope Jeffrey Simmons' secret team understands this, if they do a deal with Jeffrey Simmons, it will be to avoid having to pay more money later. It's why Lamar Jackson, even though I don't know if he meant to do this, looks like a genius, because when Lamar started negotiating his contract, $35-38 million was the going rate for a franchise quarterback. Now $43-44 million is the going rate for a franchise quarterback. And if he waits even longer, that number's probably only going to go up. What else we got?
Another texter texts in and says, whatever Derrick wants, give it to him. He's given too much to this team to not be taken care of.
Yeah, it's not the Tennessee Derrick Henrys. You cannot run your team like that. You cannot give anybody, the New England Patriots, not give Tom Brady what he wanted. Now, ultimately, they may look at themselves in the mirror and say, we're the ones who screwed up, but you cannot do that. 615-737-1025. I owe a massive apology, but the apology I owe is to a place that I think will shock many of you. I'll explain. That's next. Stillman and Company right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You watch the game.
And he's going. Nobody's going to catch him. Derrick Henry, touchdown.
We talk the game.
I don't think it was a bad play, but he took out their goalie.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
Where will you be for the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway? The Tootsie's Infield Club will be the coolest spot in the house before and during the race. With the shaded seating, cold drinks, and live music, it's just like Broadway at the Speedway. You'll be close to the bar, the bathroom, and all the action in Turn 4. How do you get in? Add a fan walk or pre-race track access pass to your Ally 400 ticket purchase, and we'll see you at the Tootsie's Infield Club.
Hey, Willie Donick here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month, and inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it that you can access with Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto specializes in zero-cost cash-out home refis. You can get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. Pay off those 23% rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut $800 or more from their monthly budget. If your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto now and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. Do it now. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
7.5 million children in Ukraine need to find water and shelter. They need a place to sleep and comfort in the dark. Show them the world cares. Support UNICEF, unicefusa.org/action.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless. Now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne,
Robbie and Rex Road to DDC.
Stillman and Company, Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checker flag in the air. The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. I owe an apology. A massive apology. And I'm not the only one who owes this apology, by the way. We all owe an apology to Major League Baseball. And I'm going to tell you why. Have you seen the NBA final ratings? Now they're out. When we were on the air Friday, we had the right-wing website ratings, which said 9 million plus, but we knew that those were, riding under the go woke, go broke angle. So we knew we had to give it a little bit more time to get the final rating out there and then go from there. The final rating for Game 6 was $13.99 million. Million viewers. Now, I want you all to think about this. What more could the NBA have asked for? They had two large markets, San Francisco and Boston. They had an iconic franchise, the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
They had a star player, a bona fide all-time great star player, Steph Curry, going for his 4th championship. And they had Thursday night, which is the number one TV window. Thursday night. It goes Thursday night, then it's the middle of the day Sunday, then it's Saturday night. Those are the best TV viewing nights. So they had the best TV viewing night, 13.99 million viewers. Now, here's where I owe baseball a massive apology. Now, that led the night of all the TV programs, the 14 million viewers, led all the TV, led them all. But for basketball, this was terrible. Game 6 in 2019, so the last pre-COVID finals, 18.34 million for Game 6. That was a closeout. 2018, that series averaged 17.5 million. This series averaged 12.24 million. Kobe and Shaq versus Detroit, a 5-game blowout where the Lakers were the ones who got beat. That closeout Game 5 had 1.8 million viewers. So again, you're talking about 14 million on Thursday night in two large markets for a closeout game. The World Series, a blowout. So that Game 6 of the World Series in which the Braves beat the Astros, two not large market teams, or at least non-iconic franchise teams, not the Yankees, not the Cubs, not the Red Sox, no superstars that are needle moving to the level of Steph Curry. And I believe that was on a Tuesday night, not a Thursday night. 13.99 million viewers for that. So they got roughly the exact same amount of viewers for their closeout games. Now, I've gotten on this show many a time, and I'm a baseball fan. And Jeff Him, the voice of the Sounds, has chastised me for this, and I think he's right to do it, about how I'll get on here and say nobody cares about baseball, and I'm a baseball fan. And I am a baseball fan. I love baseball. I watched baseball yesterday. I watched baseball the day before that. Guess what I'll probably watch tonight?
Baseball.
Baseball. So I do like baseball. But I like the Braves, and if you put some random game on, I'm probably not going to watch. And I can't stand the fact that it takes them 45 minutes to throw a pitch, and I don't like the fact that we've added all these extra playoff teams. So now, as long as you kind of come close to being good, you'll make the playoffs, and half the teams in the league are tanking. The Braves won 14 games in a row, and it was because they played the Rockies and the Diamondbacks and the Pirates and the A's and all these teams that don't give a crap about winning. And I get it. Baseball's got its flaws. But I feel like as a country, we sit here and we complain about baseball and how, oh my God, baseball's dying and baseball's falling apart. And oh my God, nobody cares about baseball. And the only person watching baseball is the old guy who's in his recliner chair and he takes his teeth out and he puts them in the glass before he falls asleep. And it's the 6th inning and all. And we say this all the time. I don't hear anybody saying this about basketball. I don't hear anybody saying this about basketball. I don't see Stephen A. Smith getting on TV and yelling about how nobody cares about basketball anymore. And I'll say this for Stephen A. Smith. If all of a sudden basketball is going to draw 13.99 million viewers for Game 6 of the finals, baseball is going to draw 13.98 million viewers for Game 6 of the World Series, if the average is going to be about a 500,000 viewer difference, why is Stephen A. Smith not on TV screaming about the Yankees? Why is he not on TV screaming about the Mets? I mean, doesn't baseball deserve that coverage? Today, I could not give two poops about this, but apparently Kyrie Irving doesn't want to go back to the Nets.
Yeah, I saw that.
Apparently Kyrie, I'll get to him in a second. I could not care less about Kyrie Irving and the Nets, but apparently Kyrie Irving doesn't want to go back to the Nets. So I'm on Twitter, and I see Skip Bayless tweet out, Kyrie to the Lakers a possibility? ? We discuss now on Undisputed. What? Why? Nobody cares. I mean, this is baseball. Why not talk baseball? It's baseball season. And not only that, people say, well, ESPN has the rights to basketball, so that's why they pump basketball all the time. And I get it. Because when you're a rights holder, those are more important than any studio programming that you will do. So I understand it. But Fox has baseball. So shouldn't Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp be discussing the Yankees and how good they are? And does Aaron Judge deserve a new contract with all the home runs he's hit? Shouldn't that be the topic on Skip and Shannon? That should be the topic, not basketball.
And to be fair, in October, November, they're not talking about the NBA.
And I think they are.
And ESPN doesn't have the rights to NFL footage, but they're talking about Aaron Rodgers. They're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and can Tom Brady bring it back to the Super Bowl.
They are talking. They talk basketball then. During those, and they do have the rights for TV. They have the rights to show highlights. That's why the Monday night package is so much more than all the other packages, is because ESPN gets the highlights to be able to use on their shows. I'm not sure it's that big of a deal, but they do on First Take, they get all those highlights. But they do talk about LeBron. I mean, you'll tune it in October. It'll be, so-and-so ranks LeBron here, Skip Bayless. What do we think? And I got to tell you, and they got more data than I have. And they must be going to some kind of data. But, 12.24 million for the average of the NBA Finals. Baseball was 11.74 million. There's really not that big of a difference there.
No.
If you round up for baseball and you round down for basketball, it's 12 million viewers each.
But 500,000 viewer difference.
It's 500,000.
That's not a lot.
It's not a lot. The closeout games. Game 5 for baseball had a better rating, had more viewers than Game 5 for basketball. And Game 5 for baseball went up against a Dallas Cowboys Sunday night football game. If you want to sit there and argue about what's more popular, baseball or basketball, I think you've got a legitimate discussion. And again, I don't think baseball is all that popular. Like, I'm not sitting here, again, I am apologizing to baseball because I am one who craps on its lack of popularity. And maybe I need to look in the mirror and maybe apologize to baseball. But I'm not sitting here saying baseball doesn't have problems. Baseball absolutely has problems. I'm just saying that whenever we talk about baseball, every time it's about the problems of baseball. Mm-hmm. Every time it's about how few people care about baseball. And yet we don't have these same discussions about basketball. And I will be the first person to say this. I don't believe it's political. I know people will say, and I had a caller this Saturday on Sirius XM. You go woke, you go broke. And I don't believe that, because I remember last year at the beginning of the baseball season when they moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta, and all those people kept saying that they would never watch baseball again, and it was time to boycott baseball and everything else. And I was at the World Series, and the same people that were saying boycott baseball were up in a box right above me doing the tomahawk chop. So you can sit there and tell me that, we're going to, you go woke, you go broke. The NFL is making money hand over fist. Their ratings are number one. They always have been. And they put end racism in the end zone. And they've, kneeled for the national anthems. And they've played the, what is the African-American national anthem called?
I think it's just called the Black National Anthem.
No, I think it's called We All Rise as One, maybe. I can't remember.
I'm not quite sure.
They played that before the Super Bowl, and all those people got mad, and they still watch football. And so that I don't think it's political. I just think that for some reason people ignore basketball and they highlight baseball, and yet it's the same. It's the same.
And I think that baseball gets a bad rep, and I have said it so many times before that I'm so disappointed in Major League Baseball for not making it more of a point of emphasis to try and evolve the game, to get the game to fit the day and age that we live in.
And they don't care. They
don't care. But on the other
side, the players
side,
don't care.
No.
And I mean, it's all
they don't care about making the game fit this day and age. They want this day and age to fit baseball.
Total money grab. It is a total. I think in order to be a Yankees fan and watch every game, you have to have a subscription to the Yes Network, either through your cable provider or through the Yes app, but you may not be able to do it through the Yes app, so it may be you have to have the Yes Network on a cable provider. So you have to have a subscription to the Yes Network. You have to have an Amazon Prime account because they've got 20 games this year. Mm-hmm. You have to have an Apple TV Plus account because they've got a handful of Yankee games.
Nobody has.
You have to have ESPN because they have exclusive games, which everybody has ESPN.
Yeah.
You have to have, what else is it? There's one other thing you have to, Peacock. You have to have Peacock because they have 10 a.m. games that they have on Sundays, and they obviously want as many Yankee games as they can get. But I'm just saying this. Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Colin Cowherd, you all owe baseball an apology. You all should talk more baseball. I owe baseball an apology. Now, we don't talk a lot of basketball around here anyway, so I don't really have to apologize for how much we talk, and should we talk more baseball than basketball? But, I mean, we have been led to believe for years. How many years have you believed, Caroline, that basketball was more popular than baseball?
A lot of them.
I mean,
a lot of the years.
That is the common consensus, is that basketball is infinitely more popular than baseball.
But that's kind of my point is everyone looks at baseball as this old, antiquated sport, and everyone looks at the NBA as a very progressive, very forward-thinking league. But and that's the reason why nobody cares about baseball is because they just haven't evolved with the times. Well, clearly, it doesn't matter. Whether you're up with the times, whether you're forward thinking, whether you're very, pro player empowerment versus if you're living, back in the day and you're America's pastime and you're not going to change or evolve. Clearly, it doesn't matter.
I mean, I think the truth is this. I think both sports have problems in this country.
Oh, 100%.
As far as people paying attention
Neither
to
is
it.
innocent, and both of the ratings are going down. So just because they're similar doesn't mean it's okay because they're both losing viewers.
Now, I do wonder about the ratings themselves, like what is the specific reason? Is it ratings are different now than it used to be? Simply, the excuse is that when Michael Jordan was getting 30 million viewers, that was great, but Roseanne and Home Improvement were better drawing shows on television than the NBA, whereas right now there's nothing that's better than the NBA as far as the amount of viewers they get. And we know because all the TV show viewers are all going to stream on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and Peacock and HBO Max. And I don't know. I have subscriptions to all these freaking things. So I don't want to admit to a crime here. I have ways of watching all of those things. And
you're not alone there. I think everyone does that.
I mean, you're allowed to have multiple profiles on a thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would
You're
only
not breaking the law. No one's going to come after you.
What is the rule? I don't even know the rule. Who knows? 615-737-1025. But again, the ratings for baseball and the ratings for basketball are incredibly similar. And I just am going to ask, when's Stephen A. Smith going to talk some baseball? He owes it to baseball on First Take to talk about baseball because of how much basketball they talk and how few people are watching and how it's essentially equal. And there's another thing, basketball. If I was basketball, I would be scared to death of, and then we are to your phones on this. 615-737-1025. Again, baseball and basketball ratings for the World Series and for the NBA Finals, eerily similar. Shockingly similar. And one of them had a superstar, Steph Curry. The other didn't. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, it's ESP at 1025 The Game.
At some point, it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like.
Get the best analysis of the big stories in the sports world with ESPN's Jason Fitz.
If you reach for a quarterback in the draft because you need one, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years.
Join Fitzy every Wednesday at 4:30. Presented by Blood Assurance. Jason Fitz.
I am 5'9.5"
on ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Breaking a sweat over summer staffing needs? Indeed's powerful hiring platform helps you easily attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Hello, Nashville. Looking to save money on your wireless bill? You can when you choose Consumer Cellular. Sign up today and you'll get the exact same coverage as the leading carriers for half the cost. This gives you direct access to the widest, most established cellular networks available. Consumer Cellular offers flexible monthly plans with no contract and simple, affordable service that's perfect for your lifestyle and budget. Featuring a wide variety of top-of-the-line phones from Samsung, Motorola, and Apple, you'll find a phone that's perfect for you. Everything is backed by a 100% risk-free guarantee, plus 100% U.S.-based award-winning customer support. Switch your talk, text, and data plan before July 31st and get $100 on every new line of service. Right-size your plan and downsize your bill with Consumer Cellular. Visit consumercellular.com/Nashville100 and enter code Nashville100 to start saving today.
Smokeville Smoke Shop has been serving Hendersonville and Metro Nashville since 2015 and is committed to providing high quality, hands-on, and personable customer service. Stop in the Smokeville Smoke Shops in Hendersonville, Gallatin, Hermitage, and Goodlettsville to try any of their wide selection of locally sourced products and selection of top nationwide brands including vapes, hookah, hand-blown glass, detox systems, e-juices, kratom products, leaf wraps, a dab bar at the Hendersonville location, and much more. Visit Smokeville Smoke Shops today.
7.5 million children in Ukraine need to find water and shelter. They need a place to sleep and comfort in the dark. Show them the world cares. Support UNICEF, unicefusa.org/action.
This is Sarah's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
Driving cross country with 2 young children is ambitious, to say the least. Then our check engine light came on. We pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts and they tested it. Turned out it was a faulty sensor. They referred us to a great mechanic just down the street and we were back on the road in no time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey Dad, cool if I change this?
They may not get each other's music, but they can both get a COVID-19 booster shot. Because the CDC recommends booster shots for people 12 years and older after completion of a primary series. Schedule an appointment as soon as you are eligible. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Never miss a moment of the show.
What is this? Check it out.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
The other thing that needs to be said, this was not a good NBA final. There was never a game where you sat there, maybe game one, but there was never a game that you sat there riveted in the last couple of minutes, possession by possession. There really wasn't. I mean, all right, the end of game 4 had some drama to it with the 4-point lead, which dissipated. Game 1 with the Celtic comeback in the fourth quarter a little bit. But last night, the game was never in doubt. Game 5 was a runaway as the last 6 minutes came through. And Game 2 is not a contest. So, and Game 3, the Celtics won by 16. So I don't know exactly where you are going to find edge-of-your-seat basketball.
There you go. That was Mad Dog Russo talking about how bad the NBA Finals were to watch. Did you think the Finals were that bad?
No, I didn't.
I will say this. There was not a single game that was edge-of-your-seat basketball, to Mad Dog's point, other than maybe Game 4 on the Friday night when Steph Curry went nuts. But I would agree with Mad Dog that I didn't feel like, last-second shot, Michael Jordan stepped back against Utah in 97.
It wasn't a nail-biter.
And so that was...
But I don't think it was a bad product.
Yeah, the ratings are just bad. And again, defining bad, it was the best program, the top program on television. The NBA Finals were for while it was on.
But you should be the top program on television for the NBA Finals.
Well, that's what you pay for. I mean, that's what the money is. All the money that football, basketball, baseball, all these sports make, that's what it's for.
Right.
It is to deliver the audience. Here's the thing that would scare me. First of all, do you think we'll see any adjustments after the finals? Any adjustments in how the national media programs their sports shows?
Not even a little bit.
Where baseball is treated like it doesn't exist and basketball is treated as if it's almost as important as the NFL.
I don't think there will be any changes made, no.
Now, here's what I want you to think about. And we went over the fact that the NBA Finals averaged 12.25. So 12.25 million people per game, 13.99 in the closeout, which equaled, I think it's like 13.997 or whatever for basketball. It was 13.986 for baseball.
Okay, so a negligible
the
difference.
Exact same. Now, do you know who the best team in baseball is right now?
I don't know.
It's the Yankees. And it's the Yankees by a wide margin. Now, there's no guarantee come the playoffs. There's no guarantee what's going to happen, just like there was no guarantee that they'd get Boston and Golden State. They could have ended up with Phoenix and, another crap team nobody cares about, Milwaukee, like last year. Could have ended up with them. They also could have had, the Kyrie Irving in New York or Kevin Durant in New York, but they didn't. But that's 13-9-9. What if baseball gets the Yankees? Because baseball the last handful of years, they've been doing okay as far as ratings are concerned. I mean, it's been going down.
Mm-hmm.
But they outdrew basketball. The World Series outdrew the bubble NBA Finals, which I think were going on around the same time. Specifically when they each were, I don't know. But the last time baseball had the Cubs in the World Series, and I think the Yankees and the Cubs are on a level amongst themselves.
And Red Sox are up there.
I don't think the Red Sox are even on the same level as the Yankees and the Cubs. But
I don't know.
I certainly think that now you got to factor in that the Cubs, hadn't won a World Series and they did win a World Series, so this is a little different. But and this was 4 years ago, and the ratings were averaging 20 million a night for the NBA at this point in time, and now it's 12 and a quarter, so you'll have to cut some of that out. But if the Yankees get in the World Series this year, and let's say they play it, and there's some interesting teams in the National League that could drive a good matchup.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, the Cardinals, the Braves, the Mets.
A Dodgers-Yankees World Series would just be ratings on a platter.
So if it ends up being, except that Dodgers-Red Sox really wasn't, but I still think that the Yankees element, I think the Yankees are so strong that it makes it worth it. And they could end up with Tampa. Like, there's a chance they could end up with Tampa and the Brewers. Mm-hmm. And, that would be awful. Awful. But right now, the Yankees are head and shoulders the best team in baseball. When the Cubs played in the World Series the last time in 2006, the Cubs averaged 22 million against Cleveland. And 2016. And 22 million was the average, which was 2 million more than basketball that year. But the potential closeout games, Cleveland had a 3-1 lead and ended up losing the series. 24 million, 40 million. Now, again, 40 million was a Game 7, and it was the Cubs breaking the curse, and the Yankees, even though they haven't won in 13 years, that's not the same as 100 years. But if the Yankees end up in the World Series, baseball is going to average 20 million viewers a night. And in a closeout game, they could get 25, 26 million viewers. And if baseball ends up averaging 17, 18, 19, 20 million viewers because they have the Yankees. Mm-hmm. And again, we're comparing the 2022 finals to the 2021 World Series. Well, that's not how ultimately in history they're going to do it. They're going to compare the 22 NBA finals to the 22 World Series. Now, I think game 1 of the World Series is on the same day. It may be a Sunday. I think it's in the same day as Packers-Bills. So they're going to have that to deal with. But last year, they outdrew basketball, and they played opposite a Cowboys game. So I'm just saying that if you get the Yankees in the World Series, regardless of whether or not baseball is more popular than basketball or whatever, the 2022 final ratings will tell a story that is that baseball is way more popular than basketball. And I just wonder if we're going to see people start acting like it, or if we're going to have Stephen A. Smith yell at us about basketball and Sports Center cover basketball, and all the Fitzes of the world tell us, well, on Snapchat, they get so many basketball viewers that we have to dog basketball. When I'm just saying the TV ratings, the basic, simple TV ratings, say that they're the same in popularity.
But I think the difference, and we can compare ratings to whatever a First Take talks about, but when it comes down to it, I just think that they view basketball, more so the NBA, as a more interesting product because it's so much more player oriented. It's so much more personality oriented, and there is so much more controversy in the NBA than there is in the MLB.
I actually think that's a bigger problem.
Why?
So I took probably 500 calls on this on Saturday across the country. And you know how callers very rarely, change my view on things. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, I think the fans hate the players. Because I think the basketball players.
Oh, yeah. I think that the players are doing themselves a disservice.
I think teams are doing this in baseball to them as well, but not as much as the players are doing in basketball. I think there's a sense among basketball players, and this is just my opinion, that they send off the notion, not Steph Curry, but a lot of other guys, that they don't really care. They send off this notion that playing basketball is not that big of a deal to them.
That's the vibe I get from Draymond.
And it's like, oh, yeah, there's a big TNT game on a Thursday night, but nah, I'm taking tonight off. Not interested. And that it's like, today Kyrie Irving's mad at the Nets, and it's like, oh, God, who cares?
And that's much more interesting debate show, talk show content rather than whatever the Yankees did on Sunday.
Except for the fact that I don't think it really is. Like, I think it's more fun probably for Stephen A to yell about because he cares more about basketball. But it's not what Stephen A wants to talk about. It's what the fans want to talk about. I think there is fatigue in the United States of America of NBA basketball players, rightly or wrongly, giving off the notion to the average fan that they don't really care about basketball. That's the sense I get, that these guys don't really care that much. And you would say, well, Giannis cares, or Steph cares, or Tatum cares, or this one cares, or that one cares. And that might be true. But all we ever hear about is all these guys complaining, or all these guys talking about their other businesses, or all these guys doing their podcasts, or all these guys doing all these other things. And I, didn't even think about that. But as I was taking all those calls on Saturday night across the country, regardless of whether or not it's right for people to think this, because the basketball person like J.J. Redick, if he heard me saying this, would go nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And he would be like, see, this is the stuff. You're saying that these basketball players can't have lives outside of basketball. No, I'm not. I'm just saying that I get the feeling that the average American sports fan, and I'm in that channel, Mad Dog Sports Radio, is the only Sirius XM sports channel that's not a specific channel. It's not NBA radio. It's not NFL radio. It's not NHL radio. It is all of them. And I am just convinced that the average sports fan feels like the basketball players don't care enough about basketball. And if you don't care enough about basketball, then I don't care enough about basketball. Just like baseball, when I see a guy, get up on the mound and adjust his cup and spit and dig into the mound and then get the sign and then shake it off and then get a sign and then throw to first base and then get a sign and then finally throw the pitch and it's ball outside, ball one. And then that guy steps out of the box. He got to readjust his batting gloves and he's got to adjust his cup. And then the coach got to go through the signs, make sure he gets what he's going and all that, just because I think you're giving off the notion to the fans that your time's not valuable to me. Because I'm taking 45 minutes to throw a pitch. And so obviously your time is not valuable. I think that has angered fans about baseball. But I think that basketball players have given off this notion, whether it's a handful of them that's ruining it for everybody. I think that the average sports fan, or at least this is the vibe that I got, and I think this is legit, I think they get the feeling that basketball players just don't care enough about basketball anymore. And you compare that to Kobe, and you knew what Kobe cared about.
And I think that's so fair. And that's my gripe with basketball is I don't care about Kyrie not wanting to go back to Brooklyn. I don't care about all of this off-the-court drama. I don't want to hear about that, okay? But I do think that there's a valid argument in the fact that people love a train wreck. People love drama. Why is The Bachelor still on TV? Why are there 17 different iterations of the Real Housewives franchise? It's because people love drama. And that's exactly what the NBA brings, way more so than the MLB. The MLB has plenty of controversy, but not nearly as much as the NBA.
But the drama doesn't equal ratings. I would have agreed with you 2 weeks ago.
But that's why I'm saying they talk about it on a First Take or on Skip Bayless. That's why he talks about it.
I can't agree with you.
It's because it's drama.
I'm telling you, I'm looking at the numbers.
But the ratings are different than what they discuss on TV.
I'm telling you, I just don't think people care. I just think that the basketball players, there's been so much drama that it's now to a point, and I think LeBron really is probably the poster child for this. But I think there's been so much extracurricular drama around the NBA that I just think that right now the fans are saying, nah, we don't care. If you don't care about basketball, we don't care about basketball. So if you don't care to play it, we're not going to care to watch it. That's my vibe. Again, the numbers are eerily similar to baseball. We owe baseball an apology. I see your phones. They're loaded up. We're right to them next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Hey, Preds fans.
Running across to make the save is Sarah.
You can now hear Nashville's best sports talk.
The backhander, he scores!
And every Predators game on 106.3 FM.
Oh, that was a thing of beauty.
From downtown Nashville. to Rutherford and Williamson counties.
Duchesne with the overtime winner.
Catch all the action on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Bob's Steak and Chop House is a renowned award-winning steakhouse in major cities across the U.S. Nashville is lucky to have a location here in downtown at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Fine dining is brought to a new level at Bob's with awards like the Wine Spectator Award 4 years in a row, TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence 5 years in a row, and Open Tables Diner's Choice Award 6 years in a row. Fine dining at its best. Bob's Steak and Chop House, open Wednesday through Saturday, 5 to 10 p.m. in the Omni Nashville Hotel. Complimentary valet parking is always available.
People are driving from all over to shop at Genesis Diamonds right now to take advantage of our very best financing offer, now extended through July 2nd. 5 years, zero interest financing with zero down. It's a fantastic opportunity, making everything more affordable. How about a $6,000 GIA certified diamond for just $100 a month? A $4,000 pair of diamond stud earrings, just $67 a month. Don't miss this. We will not be extending it again. 5 years, zero interest financing, exclusively at Genesis Diamonds. Open this Sunday, Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit.
We're in the most active season of the year right now, but if you've got joint pain, you may be on the sidelines. Hips, knees, back pain, shoulder pain. It sucks the fun out of living, but I've got the solution. QC Kinetics, helping people here in our listening area get the fun back. It's regenerative medicine. It's the hottest thing going. It's basically taking growth factors with the healing properties from your own body, highly concentrated, then putting them into your aching joints. This is exciting. It's in the office. It's non-surgical. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. So stop putting it off. Call QC Kinetics and learn more about regenerative medicine and get a free in-office consultation now. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics. Repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints and get the long-lasting relief from pain.
As in all human conflict, adults fight and children suffer. Today, 7.5 million children in Ukraine need to find water and shelter. They need safety in school. They need a place to sleep and comfort in the dark. Show them the world cares. Support UNICEF on the ground in Ukraine. We won't stop until every child is safe. UNICEFUSA.org/action.
Welcome to the Everyday Hotel. You'll be on the second floor and your other room will be on the 14th.
Wait, we asked for connecting rooms? These are 12 floors apart.
We tried, ma'am, but technically they're only 11 floors apart. We don't have a 13th floor.
We can't be 11 floors away from our kids.
I don't see a problem.
Stuart!
When you want separate rooms, but not that separate, it matters where you stay. Only Hilton offers confirmed connecting rooms at the time of booking. Hilton, for the stay.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome
into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
Scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is John Hines, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
That brings us throughout the NBA postseason. It was not a good NBA postseason. A lot of people thought you'd get drama, me included, with the Nets Celtics. It was a 4-game sweep. A lot of people thought you'd get drama. Game 7, Bucks Celtics. It was a disaster. Game 7 wasn't very good. A lot of people thought you might get a lot of drama after Ja missed a layup against the Warriors in Game 1 of the second round. They were down 3-1, and Ja got hurt. Series didn't do much. A lot of people thought Golden State and Phoenix would be a hell of a series. Golden State and Phoenix wasn't even able to get there, and they collapsed at the end of Game 7 and were mortally embarrassed by what the Mavericks did. Just not a lot of drama in this postseason. It was Game 7 of the Bucks Celtics, as I said to you 1,000 times, was the worst Game 7 I have ever witnessed from an anticipation standpoint since I've been watching basketball for 55 years. 88 threes shot. Game was a disaster. Unwatchable.
That was Mad Dog Russo, and I do love the fact that he's going to be on ESPN Wednesday on First Take with Stephen A. Probably debating basketball. Because that's what they got to talk on that. I did promise your phones. 615-737-1025. Again, the World Series ratings, eerily similar, 13.986 million viewers for the Game 6 finale. So 13.986, which if you round up is 13.99. Game 6 for basketball, 13.99. It was the same. The difference of the average of the series was about 500,000 viewers in favor of basketball. Game 5, which went up against the Dallas Cowboys game in the World Series, had better ratings, more viewers than the 13 million that basketball had. So make of that what you will. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Scott has been waiting patiently and is going to kick us off this hour. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Scott.
I mean, to me, it's pretty simple, and I'm perusing college football message boards that I'm members of, things like that. The 2 days off between every game just killed interest. I mean, people would forget when the games were. I mean, there was no excitement build up during the day. If you're taking 3 weeks to play a series, I mean, it kills interest.
All right, I'm going to let you go because that beeping in the background is driving me crazy. Do you think that there is a problem with the days off in between games?
I think there might be a good bit to that because you play this exciting game and everyone's into it, and then whenever the attention span is so much shorter now, I think that some people start to just forget when the next game is, and then the build-up just isn't as exciting. I do think there's a good bit of truth to that, but also, has that changed at all? The amount of time between games, has that changed?
I don't know, because I've heard a lot of people complain about the tip times. So let me just pull up the 1998 NBA Finals, because the 1998 NBA Finals, Michael Jordan's last one, that was the most popular finals ever. And everybody complains about the 8 o'clock tip time and the Jordan versus the Jazz Game 6, 30 million viewers, 8 p.m. tip time. So let's see. Let's go to the 98 Finals. Here are your dates for the finals. June 3rd, June 5th,
okay,
June 7th, June 10th. So we added an extra day, so 2 days off there. June 12th, June 14th. So that's it's basically every other day. Which this was, except for there was 2 days off in between. There was 2 days off between Game 3 and Game 4 in Chicago. So again, June 3rd, day off June 5th.
Oh yeah.
Day off June 7th. 2 days off June 10th, which I'm going to guess was to avoid a Friday night or was to avoid a Sunday night. Or no, excuse me, to avoid a Friday night and probably play on a Saturday or a Sunday. Let's see. I don't know what day June 10th, 1998 was. Anywho, but then day off, game, day off, game. That could make sense. And I do appreciate that baseball is game, day
Just
off,
knock 'em out.
game, day off, game. I do think there's some truth there. I mean, I'll be honest, and I get it because Friday night is when you do not want to put things on TV.
What's so bad about Friday?
I was disappointed. People are doing stuff. I was disappointed that the Stanley Cup Final, which started on Wednesday, was not on Friday. Like, when we got off the air, I was like, oh, goody, hockey. And then I was like, hockey not till tomorrow?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm glad they played Saturday, and they're playing today. And Lord, please tell me they're playing Wednesday, Ian.
That is correct.
Okay. Then are they playing Friday? Or are they going to play Saturday instead?
Looks like Saturday, but let me double check.
Come on, hockey. What do we have
I
to
do
text
think
on?
that's a fair argument that the time between games is just too long in the NBA. But Daniel from Smyrna texts in and says, NBA fans aren't tired of any drama, and we love watching the NBA, and it's drama. The NFL just draws more fans than the NBA. These playoffs
What
are
about
awesome
baseball?
to watch. Stick with what you know.
What about baseball?
I don't know.
Text that texter back and
Okay.
say, what about baseball? Jared.
Hockey is tonight, Wednesday, Friday.
Yes, good day. Way to go, Gary Bettman.
And then Sunday.
In the NHL.
But I think that's the texter's point, is that the NBA fans love the drama. And that's why it's talked about. The drama is talked about more so than anything that happens in baseball.
And the baseball fans like the 2-1 pitch. Ball 3!
But Are you going to talk about that on the talk show?
Johnson, 2-2 pitch. Ball 4, take your base. Now batting the left fielder, number 35, Johnny Johnson. Johnson steps into the plate 2 for 4 in the ball game, had a double in the third inning. In fact, he became the first Washington National player to hit a double since the guy did it last inning. Here's the pitch. It's fastball inside, ball 1. Funny story about him. We were actually at the hotel today grabbing a bite to eat, and he told me that he's allergic to mayonnaise. Here's the pitch, fouled off 1-1. And I was asking him, so what do you put on your sandwiches if you're allergic to mayonnaise? And he said, well, he usually goes with the honey mustard variety. Here's pitch, foul back 1-2.
Good choice.
And so he's a big honey mustard guy. Line drive into left field. That's a base hit. That'll get down. He's got his third hit of the day. That hit was presented by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I mean, that's baseball.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Again, going to the drama and all that kind of stuff. Like Aaron Judge right now, I think is probably the best player in baseball. He's, I think he honestly has like 25 home runs right now. And he's in a contract year. And it was very Philip Forsberg-esque, which, he got to spring training and it was that weird spring training because they had the whatever. And I don't remember the specifics of it, even though I did talk about it on Sirius. But it was like a big deal that they didn't, sign him by the deadline. And so he's going to play this year, and then he's going to be a free agent, and he's the best player on the Yankees. And the Yankees are the best team, and they're the most popular team, and that's some tea. So that would matter, in basketball circles. If it was like, what's Kevin Durant going to do at the end of the year? That would be seriously talked about. And this is just completely ignored. And now Judge is having an unbelievable season, just like Forsberg, having an unbelievable season, and yet, Kyrie Irving might not go back to the Nets. Stephen A., what do you think? What else we got?
Keith in Bowling Green texts in and says basketball started going downhill at the decision.
I do not like super teams.
I think a lot of people are just sick and tired of the super teams going into the NBA season, knowing who's going to win the championship.
But we haven't had that for 3 years. We haven't had that for 3 years.
But the super team idea is still around.
The stigma.
Is around.
That to me goes back to, I think there's a lot of players that, and I think LeBron is guilty of this. I think Durant is guilty of this. I think Steph is guilty of this by association because he brought Kevin Durant to his team. I think there's that the guys don't care enough about winning when it comes to basketball. Title. And really it's the opposite because Kevin Durant, I heard Charles Barkley say the other day that Steph, by winning this title, is now in the realm of Isaiah Thomas as the best little guy in the history of the NBA. Well, Isaiah only had 2. And Chuck's theory was, well, he won those 2 with Kevin Durant. And as I said that I thought that Kevin Durant was the biggest loser of the NBA Finals because he got too much crap for not winning in Oklahoma City. So he decided because he can't go 5 minutes without shutting the haters up, he decided to go join Golden State to then be like, what are you going to say now, haters? Won 2 titles. Now the Golden State has won another title without him. It's like, they didn't really need you. Your championships don't count. And now he'll say that that's not the case, but that's probably how he feels because he cares about this stuff. And that's how most of America feels. So I do think that the super teams did hurt. Did that texter ever text back that said, we love basketball, Jared, leave basketball alone?
Haven't heard back. I will report back whenever we hear
you
back
can't tell me
Daniel.
that, hey, you stay out of basketball. The basketball people like basketball. Okay, well, the baseball people like baseball. But we've been dogging the baseball people for years. I was a kid. I loved baseball. ESPN got rid of Baseball Tonight.
Yeah,
Baseball
RIP to
Tonight
BPTN.
used to be on every night, and they don't even have Baseball Tonight.
No, now that studio is just a bunch of cubicles.
They don't even have
That's
baseball.
sad.
It's cubicles.
It's cubicles.
It's cubicles.
With the same floor and all of the same lighting. It looks the exact same, just with desks.
They canceled Baseball Tonight. And
Do you think they'd cancel NBA Tonight?
Well, they did have that NBA show they got rid of.
Which one?
The Rachel Nichols one.
Oh, well, I don't know if that was getting rid of the show or if
They
that
got
was
rid
getting
of her,
rid of
and
Rachel Nichols.
Scottie Pippen was on that show before he went crazy. And I remember that show when it would come on.
The Jump?
Yeah, so when that show would come on, when we'd be in the studio, and you know me, I don't watch TV while I'm on the air.
Yeah.
So, we have 2 TVs that were on, and one of them was a big one that would be on the wall, and Floyd would just want NFL Network all the time. Like, if it wasn't NFL Network, he was not happy. And so that had to be NFL Network. And then the other one was just whatever Willie, Darren, whatever they left it on was what it would be. And if it was ESPN and it would flip to basketball, I would turn it off because I just couldn't even watch that show in the background without even hearing the sound. It was so bad. 615-737-1025. Speaking of TV, if you're a Preds fan that cut the cord on cable and can't get the games, your answer may be coming to you. I will explain. And faster than you know. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
they're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
And I-840.
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 1025 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 1063 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 1063 now and add it as a favorite.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
An air quality alert remains in effect for the remainder of the afternoon. As we head into tomorrow, the heat cranks up with highs near 100 degrees with mainly sunny skies. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
At Napa, when it comes to serving you, their motor never quits. From next day delivery to getting involved with the local communities, that's Napa know-how.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
Hey, this is Sean Ford, Director of Sales for ESPN 1025 The Game. I'm looking for talented salespeople to add to our dynamic and growing team. If you're an experienced seller who's looking for a new adventure and a career path that offers more excitement and new opportunities, you may want to listen up. First of all, if you're hearing this message, you're probably already a fan of The Game. We have a long list of local businesses who are fans too and love what we do to help them grow. You might be someone who could be a part of that experience. Are you comfortable meeting strangers and earning their trust? Do you enjoy working in a team environment, but self-motivated to set and achieve your own personal goals? Are you a creative person who loves to share your ideas with others? Do you thrive on making a difference in your community? If the answers to all those questions was yes, then we should talk. Send your resume and cover letter to together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com. Let's see if we're a good match. Cromwell Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Darren McFarland.
That's the most personality I think I've heard.
Willie Donick.
Give me credit. I said it.
Chase McCabe.
I still talk to people outside of this building.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman & Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
on ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company. So there's some news on the TV streaming front that I do think is worth discussing. So if you're like me, many of us, a couple of years ago, I think I've told the story on the air, I had a cable provider that I could not move with. So I lived in an apartment until like 2018. And in 2018, I moved into my first house, and I could not move my cable provider. And thus, I was trying to figure out what I could do for cable. And Comcast wanted to charge $10 extra per box. I have a lot of TVs in my house. And $10 extra per box per HD. And extra per box per DVR.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And I was not about to pay $400 a month in cable.
That's ridiculous.
And so I was at a Preds game. We had a VIP suite night at Bridgestone Arena. And there were a bunch of like winners or clients or I can't remember what. But me and Porth were there. And Porth was telling me about YouTube TV. And one of the people in the suite was like, yeah, I have YouTube TV too. And they were all for it or whatever. So I was like, I'm going to give it a try. So I got YouTube TV, and I loved it. And YouTube TV had the Preds, which was good. They had the Braves, they had the Preds, they had the Grizzlies. Good. Didn't hear any qualms from me. No complaints. Then all of a sudden, about a year and a half later, we lost the Preds, we lost the Braves, we lost the Grizzlies, and I was not one happy camper. But apparently that's been with all the streamers because it's a long, complicated story, but the Department of Justice, in a sale between Fox and Disney, forced them to divest the stations. Sinclair owns them. It's complicated. It's not worth your time. So a lot of people find themselves in the same boat of I cut the cable, I cut the cord, I'm watching on Hulu Live, I'm watching on YouTube, I'm watching on Sling, I'm watching on one of these streamers, and I want to watch the game, and I can't get the game. And Bally Sports knows this. So what they did is in 5 select markets, Thursday is the soft rollout of this because there's only a handful of baseball teams that have negotiated their rights with Bally Sports.
Right.
Detroit, Kansas City, Miami, Milwaukee, and Tampa fans will all be able to stream their local Major League Baseball team. This will be Bally Sports Plus, so it'll be an app, and you got to pay for the app, and it's going to be $20 a month, or it's $189 for the year. Now, if I was a Predators fan and just a Predators fan, and this is going to be a very interesting element whenever they roll this out here, is will it include baseball? Because there are a lot of Atlanta Braves, and while I don't think there's a lot of Cincinnati Red fans, there are some. And if this includes baseball, I think you got a chance to get the $189 out of the fans because then it would make sense to have it year-round, and you essentially save $5 a month by doing the $189 as opposed to the $20, I guess technically $19.99. $19.99 a month to be able to watch these games. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think a lot of people who cut the cord and haven't watched the regular season for the last 2 years, except for the ESPN Plus games or for the TNT games or things like that, I think a lot of people, maybe the first month of the season or the second month of the season, they're going to do the $20. They're going to try it out. And if the team's not very good, they're not going to keep paying $20.
That's steep.
I actually think that this is going to be a failure. I think that the Bally Sports Plus is going to fail. And that's just I look, I have no skin in this game. I'm not rooting for Bally. I'm not against Bally. I just wish the games were on YouTube like they have been.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to fail. And I think there's a couple things at play here. Number one, if I'm paying $20 a month for your service, I want more than the games. I
need something else.
I want good
20's steep.
I want good programming. Like I want programming on your app. Now there's like an interactive element of this app that's going to be some kind of gambling tie-in. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe that gets people to want to do it, but I doubt it. I think this is going to fail. And I think the whole premise of the Bally Sports networks, I think it's been a colossal failure. Now, part of it's not their fault because they weren't expecting to acquire all these regional sports networks and then 5 minutes later, all the sports be canceled for 5 months. But what's really happened is these sports leagues are making so much money off of their national packages that there's no reason for me as a sports fan, and I'll use the Grizzlies as an example. There's no reason for me to pay to watch the Grizzlies. I'm not that interested. But there's enough games on ESPN and enough games on TNT. And then when they make the playoffs, all the games are on ESPN or TNT. So I don't need your app. And if the Predators make the playoffs, all the games are on ESPN or TNT. So I don't need your app. And I don't need to pay your $20 a month. And so they're doing it because the rights are so expensive. Those sports programming, these regional sports networks, it's a total bubble. My grandmother lives in South Florida. She has probably spent over her life $5,000, maybe even more, on watching the Marlins, the Heat, the Florida Panthers, and she hasn't watched
none
a
of which she
single
probably
game.
cares about.
Doesn't give two poops. Has not watched a single game. But because of the carrier fees, she's paid, probably over the last 30 years, $5,000 total in watching the Marlins and the Heat and whatever. And so what's happened is a lot of people aren't paying that anymore because they watch, stream TV and not cable TV or satellite TV. And what's happened is that free money that the sports network was getting and then was signing these rich deals with the teams, that money's gone. Now the teams are making up that money by having even more national TV deals, but that really leaves the rights holder holding the bag. And so I'll just ask this question, and maybe we'll get some text reaction and go over it later, though we do have some other stuff to get to. Would you pay $20 a month to watch the Predators on TV? And again, this doesn't include every game because they play how many games on ESPN Plus?
A good bit.
8 to 10, maybe.
8 to 10.
Which I already pay for.
So that's what? 20. That's 10%, 20% of the schedule? 10 games of an 80-game schedule?
Math is hard in the air.
It is hard. But you're talking about 12%. So you're talking about 12% of the games aren't even on this that I'm paying $20 a month for. Then they play a handful on TNT. So now you're talking about, it's 75% of the games are on this app. What if the team's no good? You pay $20 to watch the team get smoked by Edmonton? Pass. Like that, to me, they got to lower the price on this, but they can't because they're paying so much money to the teams. And the NHL and the NBA, and this is another thing that they're going to have to get figured out here. So the NHL and the NBA signed a deal with Bally Sports. So Bally Sports has the rights for every NBA team and every NHL team. So once Bally Sports Plus launches here, which would be in the fall when the full rollout comes, there'd be no reason to roll this out tomorrow here because we don't have a baseball team. So our hockey team would be their whatever.
Their big rollout here.
That's going to be their rollout in the fall. But Major League Baseball is making the individual rights holders do it. The Braves and the Reds, I don't believe, have agreed to a deal with Bally Sports. So you're going to want to pay. It's one thing to ask to pay $20, and you're getting the Braves, the Reds, the Grizzlies, and the Predators. But if you're just getting the Predators and the Grizzlies, $20 a month, that's what they're asking you to pay. Or the deal they want you to take is the $189 for the year. You got a much better shot of doing that if you've got baseball included with hockey and basketball as opposed to just hockey and basketball. That would make no sense.
Or if you have the ability to watch all Bally Sports games, whether that's, the Predators or any other hockey team that plays
they don't
on
know
Bally
those
Sports.
Rights. Those rights are owned by the extra innings package.
I know, but I'm saying it'd be much more attractive if it was more than just Predators games for that price.
But the regional sports network doesn't own that, so then they can't do that.
I know that they can.
That's
for $20 a month. You got to give me more than just the Preds games.
Bally Sports, which is really Sinclair.
Mm-hmm.
Sinclair is the guy holding the bag. Fox sold these things for like $9 billion, or maybe even more than that, and then Disney sold them for I think half that, or maybe it was $20 billion. Fox sold them for, and then they sold them for $10 billion, and now they're the last ones holding the bag. So good luck to them. 615-737-1025. Speaking of the Predators, there was a report out of Canada about a possible reunion with the Predators and Barry Trotz. Huh? We'll get to that next. Caroline, tell us about the Caesars Sportsbook app.
It is time for the Caesars Sportsbook Report. Now, first things first, when you place your first bet with the Caesars Sportsbook app, it is risk-free up to $1,500, so they have got you covered there. Download the app and use promo code RADIO15, that's one word, RADIO15, and then place your first bet. It's that easy. If you win, congratulations, you just made a little bit of money, but if not, no worries. You'll get that wager back as a free bet. And if you need something to place your first bet on, look at the Stanley Cup Finals Game 3 tonight, Colorado, Tampa Bay. I am going to take the Lightning on the money line, minus 115. I don't think that Tampa Bay is going to go down without a fight. But if you don't want to pick a winner, then you can look at the over-under totals at 6 goals. I'm going to take the over because the pucks have been flying in this series at plus 110 odds in the Caesars Sportsbook app. But that's my take. Do it how you want to do it. Just do it with the Caesars Sportsbook app. Must be 21 and physically present in Tennessee. New users only. Bet amount of qualifying wager return only if wager is settled as a loss. Paid as a single bet credit. Must be used within 14 days. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesars Sportsbook. Download it, people.
You watch the game.
Philip from the left circle.
We talk the game.
You can't just pick up one guy and be competitive in the playoffs.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
With your home value up again, you are sitting on a pile of money. So don't let it sit there. Use it. Willie Donick here for my friends once again at Loan Pronto. Introducing Loan Pronto's Equity Line of Credit program. You don't have to refinance, but you can access up to 97% of your home's value. Get cash now to pay off all your credit cards or do that home improvement project. Get your down payment for a new home or stash away for a safety net. You can get $50,000, even $100,000 or more out of your home. And the payments are crazy low. Think what you could do with $100,000 right now. Loan Pronto makes unlocking your equity easy, and they can probably even waive the appraisal. Don't just let all that home equity pile up. Turn your house into an ATM machine and get the cash you need. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. You're driving along and some nimrod cuts you off. You hit the horn. Jeez, it sounds like a goose in distress. Time to head over to eBay Motors. They have horns for every make and model, not to mention horn pads, steering wheels, wiring, and more. 122 million parts. You can even go for an upgrade. Now, it looks like Mr. Cutoff Man needs a new seat cover. Try eBay Motors, pal. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
a Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So over the weekend, TSN Insider Trading in Canada, where they got all the insiders and they're all breaking down the latest scoops, had two solid Pred scoops. First, Chris Johnston had a scoop on Philip Forsberg and the Predators. Here's what he said.
A player the Nashville Predators would like to bring back to their lineup is Philip Forsberg, but at this point in time, it's not clear if they're going to be able to do that. There hasn't been much progress towards an extension since talks were held in March. The sides have had an ongoing dialogue, but they are dug in at this point in time. And so as we get closer to July 13th, a career-long Predator who loves his time in Nashville may face the choice that he has to go to the open market.
Okay. So he's saying, hey, it looks like there's no movement here with Forsberg and the Predators. I thought that was a pretty big scoop. Then there was Pierre Lebrun, who had a scoop on Barry Trotz. Here's what Pierre said.
What we're told is that Barry Trotz, his intention is to make his decision on his NHL future around July 1st, and he's indicated that to a few teams. Now, we know, of course, we reported before that he's interviewed with the Winnipeg Jets, he's interviewed with the Detroit Red Wings, among other clubs, for the head coaching jobs. But we're also told that he has chatted with his old NHL club, the Nashville Predators, about a potential management role with the organization, which has always kind of been rumored about Barry Trotz, but it's interesting that that's yet another option for Barry Trotz potentially.
Okay. Now, I assume that most people who are Predators fans did not hear those two reports or see those two reports over the weekend. So I selflessly posted them to Twitter so that everybody could see.
Thank you for that.
And you want to know what I was stunned by?
What?
Do you know which one the Predators fans cared about way more?
Barry Trotz.
Oh, my God.
They probably freaked out about Barry
They
Trotz.
made such a big deal about Barry Trotz. And again, the report here was Winnipeg is waiting on a decision from Barry. Detroit is waiting for a decision on Barry, which Ian had the idea of Barry Trotz coaching the Detroit Red Wings.
Crazy, right?
I mean, that is some tea. So they're waiting on Barry to decide. I think Philadelphia wanted Barry, but ultimately went with John Tortorella. And so what's Barry going to do? And then all of a sudden it's, he's actually talked to his other club, the Predators, about a position in upper management. And it's like, well, I see why the fans are thinking, oh, Barry, come home, Barry, yes. Because I think a lot of fans in their heart, they ultimately want Barry to come back in an upper management position.
And then ultimately fill in.
And then bump one of the other two guys out,
Yes.
right? So, like, Barry comes in as a senior vice director, president, whatever. And then, after more David Poile screw-ups and losing, you bump David out, put Barry in. I think a lot of people would like that. If it is Barry comes back in a, position in upper management, John Hines isn't getting the job done midway through the year, bump him out, Barry get behind a bench. I'm for that too. But I don't think that's what they're thinking. And I have not talked to anybody in the Predators about this. In fact, I almost specifically didn't do it because I do wonder how true this is. Like, I do wonder how real it is that the Predators have had discussions with Barry Trotz about an upper management position. But I do think that if the Predators were to bring Barry back in a management capacity, that it would be David's idea to do it, which makes me think that it would be for Barry to work for David in the hockey operations department and not be the GM ever or not be the coach ever. And
well, is it really up to David Poile to say that Barry Trotz won't be the GM ever?
I don't know who it's up to anymore.
And
is it
that's
up
probably
to
a good
Bill
point.
Haslam? Is it up to Herb Fritsch? Is it up to
over? That actually sounds like a succession plan more than it sounds like a David Poile needs backup plan.
Which I asked David about a succession plan at the final press conference, and he said no succession plan. But that was obviously about his kid. And I will say this, if my choice is Barry comes in for a year, David retires, Barry takes over, or we have to live with the possibility of David's kid, who's been here the whole time with all the screw-ups they've been making, him taking over.
I think everyone would
Barry.
take the former.
Barry. Now, again, here's another thing. Barry Trotz bought a house last week in Nashville. Now, I heard the Midday Show talking about this, and they said that they thought that Barry always had a house here. I don't know Barry that well. I wasn't on the air when he was the coach. They're obviously, freaking BFFs with Barry. And so they would know. So I don't know if this is like any big development that Barry bought a house here last year. But people last week Barry bought a house. When Barry Trotz bought a house, I got tagged in a bunch of tweets that are like, oh, Jared, you're going to make a big deal about this now? You're going to. And the one thing that everybody keeps forgetting is that with the Rodgers thing, what I was told and reported and was confirmed by other people was when Aaron Rodgers bought the house to build here, he was open to joining the Titans. With Barry, we hadn't heard anything about Barry and the Predators. In fact, Chase asked David Poile straight up about adding Barry Trotz in a management position at the final press conference. And nothing Poile said really had any mustard on that. So there was nothing to connect Barry buying a house here to anything about Barry Trotz becoming the coach here or Barry Trotz working for the team. Now we have the report about Barry Trotz working in upper management, and we've got Barry buying a house last week. To me, that's a story. That is a legitimate discussion here. But I guess what I'm saying is the Forsberg news, that is legit. Like, that affects your team next year. If he's on the team, it affects your team. If he's not on the team, it affects your team. If the reality surrounding a Barry Trotz reunion for the Predators is Barry's going to be there, but he's not going to be the coach, and he's not going to be the general manager, then I'm not sure that really gasses my jet up at all.
But also, my question is, why would Barry Trotz want to do that?
So I have a theory behind that, and that is maybe Barry doesn't want to take any of these jobs that are out there.
Maybe so. Maybe
Now,
he's done coaching.
Every job, I didn't say that.
I know, but I'm offering up a second alternative.
Every job that is out there right now, except for maybe the Bruins, but even that looks kind of like a rebuild. Every job kind of stinks. Detroit stinks right now. Winnipeg stinks right now. And Winnipeg, and I know Barry's from there, but Winnipeg, I've never been there, but from the people who have been there, it's apparently not anywhere anybody who doesn't want to be there wants to be.
Sounds cold.
Now, again, Barry's from there, but if he's paying $1 million for a house here, then I'm guessing Barry probably likes to spend a lot of time here. So Winnipeg's out there. Detroit's out there. Philadelphia, I think, was out there. Those teams are not close to winning at all. You know, the last time Barry went looking for a job, the Islanders weren't very good, but he got paid big-time money. The time before that, he got Alexander Ovechkin in the Capitals. And so I wonder if Barry thinks, you know what, I don't like any of these jobs. Let me go back to Nashville for a year and and I don't know if he had any years left on his contract in New York and there'd be offsets, but sometimes there's a thought that Barry probably had years left on his contract. New York's still paying him. So if he comes here, you can pay him $30,000 or whatever. Mm-hmm. No real money from the Predators while he's getting the New York money. And he can work in a management position here and then wait for the job that he wants. Say Mike Sullivan gets canned in Pittsburgh next year. He can go take that job. And now he's got Crosby. So I think that could be a reason. Like that Barry could be waiting for like the right situation for him. And he can use the Predators as kind of a stopgap. I think if you're the Predators, I would hope that the secret reason he's there is because he is ultimately going to bump out one of those guys. The problem is I think the idea of Barry bumping out one of those two guys, specifically the coach, where I don't think this would be very fair, would be so apparent. If they go on a losing streak to start the season next year, the fans are going to demand that they bump him out and put Barry in as coach.
Yes.
So that's not conducive for success for John Hines. But I could see, if I owned the team, I could see wanting Barry Trotz in a management position as kind of ultimately, I'm going to bump one of these two guys out, and Barry Trotz is in. And I'd be for that. But because I know how the Predators work, I don't believe that if Barry Trotz were to come back in a non-GM management role, I'm not convinced that it would be, personally, I'm not convinced that it would be to bump out Poyle or Hines, and I think they would make that obvious from the start, and they would make it so obvious that they couldn't do it. Like they couldn't do it. They would talk about how, no, Barry is not here to interfere with John. He's here to help John. He is not here to whatever Barry is. And then November, Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving, the team's not doing too well. And it's like, all right, John's out, Barry's in. But they would have gone so far in to say that wouldn't happen, that they wouldn't do that. So I just don't feel like that Pierre story is that big of a deal. But the reaction to it when I put it out there was like, oh, yes, we got to get Barry Trotz back. And the fact that Barry Trotz is going to wait till July 1st before making a decision tells me that there's something he's looking for. There's something he's looking for. There's something he's looking to do. And I don't know what it is. So we're starting on that this hour. 615-737-1025. TSN. And they are the Hockey Insiders. TSN is reporting that Barry Trotz and the Predators are talking about a management position and that Barry purchased a home in Nashville last week. TSN's not reporting that. That's been well documented. So Barry purchased a home in Nashville last week, and now TSN is reporting, Pierre is reporting that the Predators have talked to Barry Trotz about an upper management position. What do we think? 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. And what is the level of optimism that something could actually get done? Elliot Friedman, by the way, has a thought on what Trotz is doing. So we'll get to Elliot's thought and your phones. That's next. 615-737-1025. Let me tell you about the FanDuel Sportsbook app. FanDuel is my official sportsbook app. This baseball season, turn Ks into cash and big hits into big wins with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just sign up using the promo code JGM, place your first bet, and FanDuel will give you up to $1,000 back in free bets if you do not win. Right now, the Yankees are red hot, but they're playing Tampa, who's pretty good, so I would be cautious, and I would probably stay away from that. If I had to look at the schedule and tell you, okay, here's who I like as far as I'm concerned, I would say right now you got the Red Sox playing Detroit, and Detroit stinks. So I think I'd go there. FanDuel's the best. There's no better place to bet America's pastime than on America's #1 sportsbook. And again, use the promo code JGM to get started with your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. 21 and older and present Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days and restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Every Wednesday at 5, join us for Jared versus Joe as they debate all of the big topics in sports, presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Mayweather Boxing and Fitness on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture eats strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with 3-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best Award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
Upgrade her diamond ring this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Yes, this killer offer has been extended through July 2nd. Our most aggressive offer of the year continues, but won't be extended again. It's not just on engagement rings. It's earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So that $5,000 eternity band comes out to just $85 a month. One-of-a-kind designer jewelry is also included in this amazing offer. Now through July 2nd at Genesis Diamonds. Open this Sunday. Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, listen, we all have cavities, but what's the best way to try and keep them from happening?
Cavities are like any other health condition. You don't really know you have one until it gets bad. Recently, I saw a patient for treatment that they had been putting off. Something that could have been simple to fix 6 months ago turned out to need a root canal and a crown. Postponing treatment costs more and takes time away from work.
Nobody wants a root canal, so you're right. Regular checkups are very important.
Well, we do things differently. I want to let people know that if they're afraid of pain or worried about the cost, they are not alone. Don't be embarrassed. We understand. Give us a call at 615-373-4488. That's kellyerice.com.
Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. If you don't have dental insurance, no problem. Be sure to join their membership club. Just visit kellyerice.com or call 615-373-4488 now to schedule your cleaning and checkup. You'll certainly be glad you did.
It's on. It's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way. I'm watching a game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
I do think when Barry Trotz was fired, I think there was a good chance that he was going to take the year off. And I think he still potentially might. But it's very difficult, even like it's very difficult to turn down, I think, all of the offers that he could have. The Winnipeg thing is very interesting to me. I think the Jets really are interested in him and really would like to have him. And there is a bit of a romance to that about, Barry Trotz going home and helping the team. And I still think that that's the one. Like, I think Philadelphia really wanted him. And to be honest, that's where I thought he was going to end up. But when he passed on the Flyers and he did tell them he wouldn't be going there, that's when I really began to think again, okay, maybe he might be taking this year off, or maybe he potentially joins a team like yours in the front office. But until Winnipeg goes away, I'm not prepared to say it's all over yet.
That seems like a nugget there from Elliot on the Midday Show. Elliot Freeman of Sportsnet saying, Barry Trotz told Philadelphia, I'm good. And they went ahead and hired John Tortorella. So, as Elliot said, he could see Barry taking a year off, or as he said right there, I could see Barry Trotz joining your team, but until the Jets, where he's from, Winnipeg, until the Jets are off the table, then we still have to be worried about Barry Trotz taking that job. And now it's starting to kind of become clear to me. Now it's starting to kind of work in a little bit when I factor in what Elliot says. Hear me out on this. It's going to take a second.
Okay.
Barry's options right now are Detroit, Winnipeg, and I believe Chicago interviewed him for the job. Right, Ian?
I think that is correct.
Now, the wild card in this is the Florida Panthers because they have an interim coach because they fired Quenneville after all those sexual allegations, or not allegations, when all that, when it all hit the fan in Chicago and the report came out, Quenneville got fired. So they elevated a guy on the bench.
Brunette.
They won the President's Trophy with him, Burnett, as the head coach. They won the President's Trophy. And in the same insider trading where I got the Pierre LeBrun story and I got the Chris Johnston thing on Forsberg, they actually said that guy's in limbo. So the guy in Florida's in limbo. Now, I got to believe if the Florida Panthers call Barry Trotz,
he's going to be interested.
I got to think he's going to take that job. Right, Ian?
Feels like a pretty good job. They got a good team.
They got a good team, and Barry's a good coach, and so let's leave them as a wild card. So you're Barry, and you're surveying the landscape, and Winnipeg is a mess right now. They got Kevin Cheveldayoff there as the general manager. He's so-so. They got rid of Patrick Laine. They're going to lose Pierre-Luc Dubois or whatever.
I think he's an RFA. They might have some rights, something to work out there, but won't be cheap.
And supposedly Scheifele's mad at him. So Barry would have to fix that. But the Jets are like you. They hit their peak in 2018, and they ain't been back. And they got trouble. And so I'm not sure Barry would necessarily want to walk into that situation. I certainly don't think Barry would want to walk into a Detroit situation. He obviously didn't want to walk into Philadelphia's situation. So maybe, to Elliot's point, Barry does want to take a year off and wait for the right job, wait for a good job to come open, because they will. Somebody will lose in the first round of the playoffs next year, get mad, fire their coach, and all of a sudden the Edmonton Oilers fire their coach, Barry's in, and now he's got Connor McDavid. That is so incredibly possible. And so how do you take the year off? Well, the Midday Show guy said Barry already had a house here. He supposedly bought another house here. You come here. So you're still working. You're still in the game. You're where you want to be. But you're not in a serious enough a role that the Predators could keep you going from taking another job. And so it would make sense. I'm in an upper management role. I'm working with the Predators. I'm with the organization that originally gave me a chance. I'm still in the game. I'm still with the team. I'm still making money from New York. I'm still making money in Nashville. I got a home in Nashville I'm living at that apparently I like, according to the Midday Show guys. That's great. So Barry would be essentially taking his sabbatical year with the Predators. Here's why the Predators would like this. Because no matter what they say about how having Barry Trotz there isn't to bump out John Hines or isn't to bump out David Poile, the reality is there's always a chance it could. Like if I owned the team and I was behind Hines, like they're behind Hines, as much as they get up in front of the cameras and say, Hines is doing a great job, they know in their heart. They hired a guy who hadn't won anything in New Jersey, and Hines hadn't won anything here. They saw the same replays that we saw when he challenged it in that Colorado game. They saw the same things we saw about the lineup in the Carolina series. I'm sure that even if they believe in Hines, it's not like they gave him a 6-year contract, as was discussed on the Robbie and Rexroad program. They gave him a 2-year. They picked up his option and they extended it a year. So it's not like they're all in on John Hines. Now, I would argue that that's probably bad for your organization if you really want Hines to believe that you're all in, to then bring Barry Trotz into the organization, even in a non-coaching role. And they'd say all the right things. Barry would say, I'm not here to take John's job. John's doing a great job. He's a great young coach. I believe in John. And John would say, I look up to Barry. And so to have him as a sounding board around here, he's so well respected in the league, and he's a great coach, and they'd all say the right things. But you can't tell me that John Hines would not get nervous if he heard they were hiring Barry Trotz in some sort of position. John Hines would not like that. And so I could see the Preds, though, doing it as, we've got Barry now in reserve. And so that way, if next year Hines isn't getting it done and all these other jobs are about to come open, we've got Barry here and we can just stick Barry behind the bench. Or if David wants to retire, and who do we trust? The Herb Fritches of the world. Mm-hmm. Who do we trust? Well, they trust Barry. So Barry can go take that job. So I understand it from Barry's perspective.
Unless that's not Barry Trotz's intention.
Well, but Barry wouldn't say that. I mean, no. Barry would say coming in. Barry would tell them, if they're talking a management position, as Pierre reported, my guess is he's talking to Poyle.
Probably so.
I don't think this is Herb Fritch that's talking to Barry, and then Barry telling Pierre that he's talking to Herb Fritch behind Poyle's back.
No.
That would be some freaking tea, and it's probably not happening. So if he's talking to Poyle, it's not to be the general manager, and it's not to be the coach. But if I own the team, you'd have to come to me before you could even talk to Barry. And in the back of my head, I'd be thinking, yes, let's get Barry in the building.
Get him in the building,
and
then
then that way. And if I'm Barry, I'm just thinking about, if I'm going to take a year off of being the coach, but I want to stay in the game,
it's the perfect opportunity.
It's the perfect sabbatical, and everybody would understand it. So that's my theory behind it. But again, as far as what you all want, all of you out there that get excited about Barry Trotz coming back to the Predators, you either want Barry Trotz to come back to the Predators in a management role and then perhaps be the coach down the road or be the GM down the road. And I just don't think that's the intentions of the people that are there right now. And I don't think that's Barry's intention either. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you, I don't think that's Barry's intention. And I don't think that's Poyle's intention, bringing Barry in, is to ultimately have Barry replace him.
And I see it a tough pathway to get to where I think a lot of Predators fans are excited about it potentially getting.
Well,
Barry Trotz of eventually becoming the general manager or the head coach.
Doesn't that ultimately, no matter what you say, crank a little heat up on John Hines?
For sure.
And is it
Hines?
Hines?
There's a possibility that Barry Trotz could be in the building? Yes.
And is it Hines that it's cranking the heat up on, or is it Poyle that it's cranking the heat up on?
Both.
But I think it would especially be Hines.
But is it realistic to assume that Trotz would take over for one of those two guys?
And that's what I'm thinking is I don't think it's realistic to think that.
Oh, I think it's so realistic to think that. That Trotz would be willing to do it, Ian?
Well, one, would he be willing to do it? And two...
So you think if Sean Henry said, hey, Poyle's out, Barry, we're elevating you to interim general manager, or we're just making you general manager, and we're talking about a year from now, do you think Barry would turn that down?
That is hard to say.
How about a deal like this?
Probably not, assuming he's okay with being a manager and doesn't want to be a coach anymore.
I'll just say this. David Poyle fired Barry Trotz. So we can talk about whatever we want about how it technically wasn't a firing, they didn't renew his contract, or we can say, it was time for a change, and, the Predators moved on, and they went to the Stanley Cup final, and Barry moved on, and he won the Stanley Cup in Washington, and it's water under the bridge, and Barry was the number one cheerleader. I remember when Barry coached the All-Star game here, and there were nothing but good things said about the organization and nothing but good things said about Barry. And I remember when the Preds got to the Cup final, and Barry said nothing but good things about the Predators. And when Barry won the Cup, David Poyle came out and said nothing but good things about Barry. And I do think it's water under the bridge. But at the end of the day, if I'm David Poyle, if I'm Barry Trotz, I don't have any extra loyalty to David Poyle. Because David Poyle fired me. And that's just how this stuff goes. That's how Floyd's buddies with people that he's fired. Or I guess he was buddies with people that he had fired. Mm-hmm. That's, this is just part of the game. And there's only 32 of these jobs out there. I guarantee you that if the Predators had moved on from John Hines, at the end of the season and they'd offer the job to Barry Trotz with a real contract, Barry Trotz would take the job because it's coaching the Nashville Predators. And he is. I mean, he's Barry Trotz. He is the coach of the Predators. Like, he is the coach of the Predators at the end of the day. Like, when you think of, who is the all-time coach of the Predators, and I love Peter, but it's Barry Trotz. So I don't think, to your point, Ian, I don't think Barry would walk in that management position. I don't think Barry Trotz would walk in looking to take either guy's job, but I do believe Barry would take either guy's job if it were offered to him. 615-737-1025. We're to your phones on this. 615-737-1025. Plus, David Poile was asked about this possibility a month ago. Chase asked him what Poile had to say. We'll get to that because I do wonder what he said, and let's compare it with now what we hear the Pierre LeBrun report. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. I absolutely love Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They've been taking care of my home for years, and I promise you that they can do the exact same. There is no better time to upgrade your essential home systems than this month with Hiller. Until the end of June, Hiller is offering 0 interest for 60 months on select new HVAC systems, 0 interest for 12 months on new tankless water heaters, 0 interest for 12 months on new whole home generators as well. If you know you need a new system for your home, do it this month. These financing offers are available for a limited time only to help you stay comfortable and cool all summer and handle those payments later. Visit happyhiller.com for all the details. As always, happy you will be, or the service is free. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
This is Colton Sissons, and this is Smashville.
Feeds now, Sissons coming on from the left circle, and Colton Sissons puts it in the net.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you looking to take ownership in a position that will support your growth and development? We are an excavation and site utilities contractor. Several things set us apart from our competition, but we take the most pride in the professional development of our people. We have multiple openings for operators, pipe layers, and laborers. Our pay and benefits are second to none, including our 401k program. Apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
Zines First is the official sign company for 1025 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
June 23rd, 11 to 1 at Nissan Stadium. Bring 5 non-perishable food items to receive 1 complimentary ticket. Limited to the first 250 donations while supplies last. Restrictions may apply.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless. Now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stone Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
He scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey,
Hey, Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
David, you mentioned Barry Trotz. There's been some thoughts that maybe he would look at more of a front office type role and not as much coaching. Would you consider maybe bringing him in? I know when he left, there was a thought of he was offered something. Is that something that could be on the table?
Well, the last I looked, and you know as much as I know, is that I believe he's already had one interview as a coach, and I believe he's going to have 5 or 6 more interviews. And so I think it's irrelevant to talk about until Barry doesn't want to be a coach. As far as I know, he wants to be a coach.
Okay, that was David Poyle a couple of weeks ago. What, 3-4 weeks ago?
About a month-ish ago.
Okay, something like that. So he said to Chase, good shoot down by David Poyle. Say, hey, look, Barry's getting all these coaching interviews. I mean, come on now. We're going to have him cleaning jock straps, or do you want Barry Trotz? I mean, these guys are going to want to pay Barry Trotz big money to come in and coach. Well, apparently, this weekend on TSN's Insider Trading, Pierre LeBron. Pierre had a report. Ian, if you could, this is what Pierre said about the Predators and one Barry Trotz.
What we're told is that Barry Trotz, his intention is to make his decision on his NHL future around July 1st, and he's indicated that to a few teams. Now, we know, of course, we reported before that he's interviewed with the Winnipeg Jets. He's interviewed with the Detroit Red Wings, among other clubs, for the head coaching jobs. But we're also told that he has chatted with his old NHL club, the Nashville Predators, about a potential management role with the organization, which has always kind of been rumored about Barry Trotz, but it's interesting that that's yet another option for Barry Trotz potentially.
Okay, so now it's not irrelevant anymore to what David said to Chase about, that's a good one, but he's going to interview
Barry wants
jobs,
to coach,
so
and that's what he'll do.
It's just not relevant right now. It's relevant now, says Pierre. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. 615-737-1025. What do we have?
Lester texts in and says, Trotz is a great guy, but hopefully he finds a head coaching job somewhere else.
What's the beef, Lester?
I don't know if there's beef. I don't know if Lester just wants Barry Trotz to thrive elsewhere. I don't know, but he's not into it.
So here's my theory on Barry Trotz. I think Barry Trotz has proven away from Nashville how good of a coach he really is. Mm-hmm. Because for years in Nashville, it was Barry's a great coach, but he's got one arm tied behind his back because the ownership here simply could not afford to have a good team. And there's a lot of truth to that. And then there was kind of this belief that Barry's defensive style of hockey doesn't play in today's NHL. And I had always believed, as is documented, that David Poyle's just not very good at scouting forwards. I think we can probably all agree with that. He gets to Washington. He wins, Barry does, but he doesn't win the cup. And so they get really, really mad. They get really, really angry, and they go for it. They don't win the cup. Then the next year, they're kind of like, all right, let's just see. This is the last year of his contract, and then we'll move on from him, and we'll bring in Reardon. And Barry ended up winning the cup. But at that point, the disrespect was so large, they offered Barry a contract to stay, but it was bullcrap money. It was like $2 million or $1 million, and he just won the cup.
Oh,
and the going rate was like $5 or $6 million for a coach. So Barry went to New York and he took the money. And then Barry won his butt off in New York, including in the bubble, beating Todd Reardon, the guy that what's it, Ted Leonidas or Ted Leonsis, or what's the guy's name, Ian?
Ted Leonsis, I think is right. Yep.
Yeah, Ted Leonsis. Ted Leonsis, who owns the Capitals, handpicked Todd Reardon to be the coach. And Barry put him out, and he got fired, which I think is poetic justice. So to me, Barry has proven his chops as a coach outside of Nashville. Just like how Jeff Fisher has done the exact opposite with his career leaving Floyd. Now, obviously, I'm incredibly biased, but I kind of felt this way even before I knew Floyd, and certainly before I was partners with him, and considered him probably one of my most important people in my life. I always thought that Jeff Fisher was an average coach, and I thought he benefited from Floyd's great players. Well, Jeff Fisher goes to the Rams. Barry goes to Washington and wins the cup, goes to New York and wins a bunch of games. Jeff Fisher goes to the Rams, and he freaking sucks. Then he leaves the Rams, and he goes to this fake bullcrap football league that not one person in my orbit cares about, and that's saying something because I'm a sports guy inside a massive sports orbit, and not one person cares about this football league, the USFL, and he goes 2-8. So obviously Jeff Fisher can't coach. But on that same token, obviously Barry Trotz can coach. And so I don't know what the texture's getting at there, but let's pipe down on the disrespect for Barry, because I think Barry has proven himself away from the Predators just as much as I think Barry proved to the league when he was the coach of the Predators. What's next?
Another texter texts in and says, as a hiring manager, if I see someone who's a star at their job but gets the boot often, then I know they've likely had issues working with their managers. Trotz may have had issues with his last 2 GMs, and he may be thinking about becoming a GM. Poyle won't be here forever, especially with ownership change. Maybe they're talking behind the scenes for a change at GM in the near future.
So oftentimes I would agree with that theory, right? That a guy gets, they traded him here and they didn't like him there and they this there and they that. I'll say this. David Poyle knows what Barry Trotz is and is not. He only worked with the guy for 15 years. Mm-hmm. Sean Henry knows what Barry Trotz is and is not. He worked for the guy for 5 years. So I understand the theory about, Trotz keeps getting fired, but Trotz was here for 14, 15 years, Ian?
Yeah, I'd say about 15 years is right. Yep.
I mean, I think it's been 23 years. Hines has been here for 3. Laviolette was here
2014
for
or
4
15
or 5. And so that's 8, and you're talking about 23, 15 years for Trotz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a lifetime in the NHL. 15 years
for a fire the coach league.
Oh my God. Barry lost the job in Washington because they thought the other guy was a better coach. And then Barry put that guy out. And Barry lost the job in New York because Lou Lamoriello is Lou Lamoriello. I don't think Barry is the problem here. Now, there is an old saying, never rehire a terminated employee. And I would agree with that oftentimes. With the exception of, this reminds me a lot of the story of Bobby Cox. Bobby Cox, the legendary manager of the Atlanta Braves. Bobby Cox was the manager of the Braves, got fired by Ted Turner, and he went to Toronto, and he won a bunch in Toronto, and they brought him back as the general manager. And then after a couple years as general manager where he traded for John Smoltz, and he drafted Tom Glavine, and he drafted Chipper Jones, he then went down to manager, and they ended up reeling off 14 straight division titles. Now, I don't think Barry Trotz is that good. Obviously, I think Barry Trotz is pretty good, but there are very few people that I would ever consider about rehiring. Barry Trotz is one of them. What's next?
Another texter checks in and says, I could care less about Barry Trotz. Give me some new blood in the building.
So that is a belief that, you don't ever go backwards. You always go forward. I get it. The one thing I would say is, what is your confidence level in this? Is your confidence level in, okay, let's see what Bill Haslam is going to end up wanting to do with this organization? Or would you rather have Barry Trotz be the general manager of the team? Because I feel far more certain about Barry Trotz as the general manager. No disrespect to Governor Haslam, but I feel far more certain about the future of the organization in Barry Trotz's hands than I do in Governor Haslam trying to pick somebody off of another team. I would also say this. What do you feel about John Hines or David Poyle's ability to go hire a new coach, or the Predators as a whole ability to hire a new coach? Would you rather have Barry Trotz, or would you rather have the mystery box? Most of the time, I would rather have the mystery box. In fact, I'm usually a big fan of the mystery box. But when it's Barry Trotz or the Predators mystery box that led you to John Hines, I will take Barry Trotz every time. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show with your phones. 615-737-1025 on all of this. Plus, I did just allude to it, but I do want to circle it again. I think it is a big deal, a very big deal around here that nobody is talking about. So I'm going to highlight it for a second in your phones. Stillman and Company right here. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose. Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
It's brought to you by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
From Fox 17 News, this is a Code Red weather alert.
An air quality alert remains in effect for the remainder of the afternoon. As we head into tomorrow, the heat cranks up with highs near 100 degrees with mainly sunny skies. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hello, Nashville. Looking to save money on your wireless bill? You can when you choose Consumer Cellular. Sign up today and you'll get the exact same coverage as the leading carriers for half the cost. This gives you direct access to the widest, most established cellular networks available. Consumer Cellular offers flexible monthly plans with no contract and simple, affordable service that's perfect for your lifestyle and budget. Featuring a wide variety of top-of-the-line phones from Samsung, Motorola, and Apple, you'll find a phone that's perfect for you. Everything is backed by a 100% risk-free guarantee, plus 100% U.S.-based award-winning customer support. Switch your talk, text, and data plan before July 31st and get $100 on every new line of service. Right-size your plan and downsize your bill with Consumer Cellular. Visit consumercellular.com/Nashville100 and enter code Nashville100 to start saving today.
We're in the most active season of the year right now, but if you've got joint pain, you may be on the sidelines. Hips, knees, back pain, shoulder pain. It sucks the fun out of living, but I've got the solution. QC Kinetics, helping people here in our listening area get the fun back. It's regenerative medicine. It's the hottest thing going. It's basically taking growth factors with the healing properties from your own body, highly concentrated, then putting them into your aching joints. This is exciting. It's in the office. It's non-surgical. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. So stop putting it off. Call QC Kinetics and learn more about regenerative medicine and get a free in-office consultation now. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics. Repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints and get the long-lasting relief from pain.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the next generation of drivers, where titanium ends and the carbon age begins. Introducing the new Stealth Carbon Wood driver from TaylorMade, with 60 layers of carbon twist face technology designed for better energy transfer and faster ball speeds. Come into Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops is home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, or shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexroad.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexroad. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
So yesterday was Father's Day, and Father's Day a year ago was the last time that I ever went over to Floyd's house while he was still alive. And I'm not saying that to make anybody feel worse or whatever about it. It just popped into my head. But what I'm about to say is not in defense of Floyd because he's my buddy, but it's because it's the truth. So the USFL, and I said I wanted to highlight this, the USFL season, I guess, is over. I guess there might be playoffs. Honestly, I don't know. This league, the other leagues, when they played, I think people watched, or at least people were, hey, did you check out this new league? This thing, I haven't heard anybody talking about it unless you work on Fox and have to talk about it, which every Monday, it's like Skip and Shannon will go over the highlights of the USFL, and it's just them throwing to a highlight package of plays in the USFL. It'll come on my TV sometimes, and within 5 seconds, I'm instantaneously bored. So anywho, Jeff Fisher finished his first year there, 2-8 as head coach. You know, I think what's not fair to do is it's not fair to talk about Jeff Fisher as an 8-8 coach, because he was an 8-8 coach with Floyd's players. And then he got to a Super Bowl with Floyd's players. And then he won a division with Floyd's players. And then he got to an AFC Championship game with Floyd's players. And then he had a league MVP with Floyd's players. Then he lost Floyd's players, and they weren't good anymore. He got fired. Then he went to the Rams, and they were terrible, and he got fired. Then nobody in the NFL wanted him, and it was well documented that he wanted one more crack at it coaching in the NFL. Nobody wanted him. Eric Dickerson had already hung him out to dry. So he gets coaching in this new league. And he goes 2-8. We need to be honest, folks. Jeff Fisher sucks. Jeff Fisher was never a good coach. We ate it up. It was Floyd's players. Floyd just didn't want the spotlight on him. He was too humble to brag about the fact that he was drafting Steve McNair and Eddie George in consecutive drafts. He was drafting Javon Curse, Keith Bullock, traded a first-round pick for Kevin Carter, Albert Ainsworth, all in consecutive drafts. He was too humble to brag about it, but the truth is he did it, not Jeff Fisher. Now, you know that. So me telling you that doesn't change any of your opinions because you all already know that. But I just want to highlight Jeff Fisher proving himself once again that he's not a good coach. Now, back to your phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. What do we have in our phone lines?
M in Clarksville texts in and says, Steinbrenner versus Billy Martin. You can rehire and win.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing was weird, though, and it was before I was born. But the Billy Martin, I mean, I think he got hired and fired like 7 times. Now, that was some stuff. And I don't necessarily want to be like that. I mean, look, the NHL's a league where guys come back. You know, the guy that just retired in Dallas, he had come back. Ken Hitchcock, you know, I think had gone to Dallas twice. What's his name in Calgary? Sutter. He's back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of rehiring in hockey. So this is nothing that is completely out of the ordinary. What else we got?
Another texter texting about Forsberg. Says, I told the morning show in the first round that Forsberg has already decided to test the market and someone will overpay. He'd like for the Preds to overpay, but he'll never have another season like this, so the Preds would be stupid to do so. Forsberg telegraphed his intent to test the market when he posted the thumbs down to the Arvidsson trade.
Okay, so here's the thing about the whole testing the market. And I do think that there's going to be some testing of the market where, and it's essentially tampering, where I believe that his agent is going to know what the other offers are going to be. But those are all 7-year contracts. So the idea of testing the market to go out there and see what's out there, unless there's another team that just tickles his fancy, because the money of the 8th year will be so great that he'll almost have to come back. But I felt like, to me, I felt like if he's going to test the market, then he's going to give up the 8th year here. I don't think he's going to give up the 8th year here. So he'll probably know because his agent's got enough clients that he'll say, hey, you know, what about Forsberg? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And they'll know what each team's going to be willing to pay. But I don't think this idea of, no, he wants to get to free agency and see what it is, like an NFL player or a baseball player. I don't think that's the case. This is more like basketball where you can get the max deal only from your team. And if he wants to do that, he can't get a max deal. He can't get the 8th year. So that's where I think that, like, the idea of him testing the market, that's where I'm like, it's just not going to happen. Unless like feelings get involved here.
Which
I just think
I'm not going to rule that out.
I just think each side is waiting for the best offer from the other side. You know, what's your final offer? And then ultimately, I think the Preds are banking on the fact that they think Forsberg will take it. And I think Forsberg is banking on the Predators not having a backup plan. And they're hoping that, you know, one side's going to buckle first.
But how can they not have a backup plan?
The Predators?
Yes.
Because anything that they would have to do that would be a backup plan would be incredibly risky, right? So David Pasternak, trading the young players, and we, you know, we've alluded to this a bunch. Adam Vingan wrote an article at The Athletic last week before they unceremoniously and ridiculously let him go, which was so stupid. Don't even get me started. But he wrote an article about what it would take, and it was a first-round pick, a second-round pick, Tanner Jeannot, and one of the prospects. And the midday guys were like, oh, that's too rich for my blood. That's too rich for me. I think that's how David Poile feels. But that's what it's going to take. And then you're going to have to give that guy an 8-year contract times 10.5. And so now it's really rich. So that's the other option, is doing things like that. And I just don't think it's in their blood. So I'm sure they have some sort of a backup plan. I'm sure,
they have to.
But it's not, I really don't think they do. I really don't think they have. Unless it's like signing Valerie Nichushkin from Colorado to a 7-year, 7.5 per deal. I mean, but that's not going to wet the whistle of anybody around here.
No.
But
it's a plan.
Yeah, but
even if it's not a good one.
It's not a good plan. I mean, so to me, that's what I'm telling you is I don't think he wants to go anywhere else, and I don't think they want anybody else. So now it's all just waiting until the final seconds, and then, what's your final offer? All right, our final offer is 875, and, you get to pick 20 teams on the no movement list, and we get 12 that we can move you to. There you go. By the way, hockey comes on right here, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Game 3 comes on tonight at 6:30. If Colorado beats Tampa, Colorado is going to sweep that series. It's Game 3 tonight. They can essentially end it tonight. Now, hockey, as we know, it's never a series until the home team loses. Mm-hmm. But if Colorado wins tonight, and if they smoke Tampa like they did the other night, we are going to hear from the people that were like, hey, what did you guys were raining this? It was all coming down after the Predators got swept. What do you think now? And we should be prepared for that. That's it for us. We're out of here. Hockey coming up in 30 minutes right here. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game, ESPN Radio until Game 3 of the Cup Final. Stillman and Cup.